Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing Live show number 211. Now, well in excess of 5 years of happiness and joy, or as my co-host in crime like to say, based on birthdays, we're only 4 years. I say, no, we're five. It's like, you don't start at one. So that's to be fair, yes. But for 5 years, every week, we've been coming to you weekly with This Week in Hospitality Marketing, hoping to keep you informed as to the latest news, tools, and techniques associated with hospitality marketing throughout the world. Now, we are simulcasting, as always, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and fortunately for us, we have some wonderful, I wouldn't say, well, co-sponsors. We don't really have sponsors, but we have co-hosts that are ones that help us support, which are basically Field Travel, Stuart Butler, who's going to be joining me in just a second, as well as also HSMAI EU and European area and HSMAI APAC, where they allow us to simulcast with them here live, and then also on a scheduled rebroadcast time, Mondays and Tuesdays. So if you're catching us in weird time zones, it's because we are 28 countries and over 10,000 people. So we are very happy that we are everywhere and anywhere. And Mr. Bird, hello.
How are you?
Good. I was going to use the trademark term that you were having about news, but I can't. Because you have a trademark. I just your lawyers would be down on me like I don't know what. I mean, you already told me that's what it is.
You could use our rejected word for it. We used to call them the newsies. So you could call them the newsies if you wanted to.
No. You grabbed the golden ticket on that one. I just say it's
News the Roof is quite a label.
I can't say it. You can. It's just what it is. It's just it sucks to be me.
99% of people listening don't have a clue what we're talking about.
Not a clue what we're talking about. For those who don't know, there is a much more organized, structured, informative, useful podcast called Field Travel Podcast, and which they do a briefer section called, you guys say it.
The News the The News the Roof even has its own official jingle now.
It does have its own official jingle. It did. Yeah.
Melissa Kavanaugh recorded. We recorded Melissa and Pete. Melissa playing the clarinet and Pete singing completely out of key, and that's now officially the
official. Also with us, Mr. Robert Cole with Rock Cheetah, the curator of our content from Twitter today.
You didn't get the. You're both wearing logo wear. Look at this, boy.
Yeah. I wanted to be, when I grow up, I want to be a mixture of Lauren and Robert. So I figured I'd wear the red of Robert today and the logo of Lauren.
Yeah, see?
I'm your love child, gentlemen.
Someday, 40 years from now, that will be possible. When you're our age.
That's funny.
So if you guys, sorry, I'm late. Have you already speculated why Tim Peter is not on the show?
Not yet.
No, we haven't really gone to the dark side for Tim yet. Other than the quick brief thing, he said he wasn't going to be here.
Two theories. One is, everyone knows that the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith was based on Tim and Tammy, and Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie just did not bring any sort of energy.
Yeah. And let's just address the fact that Brad Pitt is potentially the worst casting to portray Tim Peter.
Exactly.
Yes. Opposite in every way.
Just
like Angelina Jolie and Tammy, I can get it, right? But I can't get behind the Brad Pitt season.
Yeah.
No, you're right about that one.
So that's number one. But I think actually, Tim and Tammy live in New Jersey. Bruce Springsteen and his wife, Patti Scialfa, they live in New Jersey. And I believe, here's my theory. I think Bruce and Patty have been like lip syncing everything that Tim and Patty, basically Tim and Tammy have been doing. I think so. I think this has all been just a big fraud. It's all of Tim and Tammy's, work and everything. So Tim used to work in recording studios, things like that around the same time. Bruce was in recording studios.
So that new movie about Bruce Springsteen that just came out is it's a biopic of a fan of.
Oh, Blinded by the Light.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it is a movie about an Indian family or a Pakistani family living in Luton, but pretty close. Actually, I saw that last night. It was very good.
Yeah, it's getting great reviews.
You are a movie buff. I got to say, you go to the theater for this stuff. I wait for it finally shows up free.
I've got an AMC A-list
Pass?
pass.
Yeah.
I pay
Oh, yeah.
$20 a month, and I can see 3 movies a week,
Yeah.
which makes no sense. And our local theater, Lauren, you're familiar with North Park in
Yeah, yeah.
Dallas, has a nice IMAX theater, a Dolby Cinema theater, and those tickets go for about $19 a show. I go to one of those, I'm like, to break even on, I've got 11 more movies this month for free, sort of thing. So, yeah, it's interesting how.
Do you at least support the local theater by buying confections and
Never.
beverages?
Although
See?
every $50 we do buy, they give us $5 back. So, and that includes
But you're the reason that the movie pass is not going to last forever, and that movie theaters are going to.
You're on the end of the bell
People
curve.
like you, man.
Well, I have to say, last night they did come in and disturb us because we were popping our own popcorn in the back row. They did not like that.
That's frowned upon in the movie theater. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah, we bring in a
hot plate.
bring in a microwave and plug it in back there and get it going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Support your local theaters, people. Otherwise,
Yes.
that medium is going to disappear forever.
And it is great to see them in large screens versus looking on your phone. Right? It's a whole different.
It is, yeah.
But anyway,
For sure.
so either that or Tim and Tammy. It could be. They could be down in Langley for CIA training again. They got to go down there.
I'm pretty sure he's involved.
I don't think it's
in
training. I think they're the trainors.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's what I mean. Yeah, they are
Yeah.
instructors. Yeah, so
He's involved in the deep state. I'm completely convinced of it.
Absolutely.
I think it's not a coincidence that this whole thing came out with the Overstock CEO and now Tim's missing. I think there's some kind of correlation there. Yeah, for sure.
Actually, a quick little funny story from way back. My best friend in high school was convinced my dad was with the CIA, and I have no personal knowledge of this. But he started kind of putting things together because my dad worked for Boeing. He had Air Force One's crew, for the president's plane. He was kind of in product support, so they'd sell a plane to the Shah of Iran, and he was like the first guy into Tehran to go say, "Hey guys, here's how you keep this plane flying." And my friend pointed out that those planes have a lot of specialized equipment and things like that. I don't know. And I did go to them with one meeting, and they asked about people's security clearances, and I was kind of just invited along, and it was interesting. They said whatever clearances, and it was with Air Force One's crew, and I was just hanging out because it was a new FAA center, and they started talking about some stuff that I don't think was public. Yeah. But anyway, so maybe he was. I don't know. He was always over in all these hot spots and things like that, but I will never know. So
Wow.
You have quite the family, Robert. I have to say, you have quite a family history. So it is not past the possible.
he
that
may, well, and actually on his little marker, he's buried in a military cemetery in Washington State. It's very odd because he's in World War II. And I think I've mentioned on the show, if you see the flag going up at Iwo Jima, the big famous statue of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was flying planes, shooting at folks on the beach to allow those guys to go do that. But anyway, it was in World War II, and that's fine. But his little marker also says Korea and Vietnam. It's like he wasn't in the Korean and Vietnam War. So maybe it was an administrative oversight, or I don't know.
Or it's
maybe he
more
was.
You don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe that was
yeah.
that
He didn't
business
let me.
trip
He
took.
didn't let
Yeah.
me into the family business apparently with that. So, but he did
Well, I
travel.
think there has
a
to be a
lot. Maybe
certain
I got that
talent.
from
Oh,
him.
never mind. Okay. So,
Yeah, that may be it.
Yeah, the military you have to have an IQ over 83 to be accepted into the military. So I'm not sure
Damn
where
it.
you fall on the scale.
missed it by
35 more
much.
points. 35 more points. I will get there. That's all
All
I
right,
need.
so I got to say, Robert, your pickings on the topics this week, interesting to say the least. I definitely thought some things were inverted. I thought some of the things would have been more highlighted by you than others. But
Oh, really?
yes, I did.
Ed is saying Ed wants a seat. He wants to get in. He said Lauren canceled my appearance on the show.
I did not cancel his appearance on
No,
the
that was
show.
deliberate.
Yeah. Finally. Yeah, Stuart's been asking us to do that for
Yeah. Really, my final straw was when he called me out live on air last week and told me I should retract some of my statements. He was absolutely right, but I just took offense to it. So I was like,
As well, you should. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I wonder, you know, how long are we going to keep letting Ed be the disruptor? But I guess, you know, it works for us, so we're okay with it. But
at least
yeah,
one more show, I guess.
What?
at least
well,
one more show.
I
At
put
least
in a
one
couple of
more
things.
show.
I put in two things in particular. One, an Airbnb article for Stuart, and a blockchain
that.
article for Ed.
Oh,
I mean,
I forgot
you
to
gotta
wear
have
my
one of
red
those.
shirt today. Stuart, I do appreciate you sending it to me, though, like you did Robert.
Yeah, I just didn't want the Fuel logo on Robert. I don't want him in any way representing our company.
I'm sponsored. I'm sponsored by Izod.
Nice.
Apparently, they feel that
The Rock
this
Cheetah
influence- I'm an
is
influencer
on brand.
for our audience. For this
Mhm.
show, that is really something to tap into. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually. I do have an article that I found on LinkedIn that we can throw in later if we want to.
Oh, wait. We're not going to address the fact that Lauren did not invite me to today's show.
I did. All the invitations went out. I don't know how yours got lost in the mail. I really don't.
All
It was
right.
deliberate. I told him.
it's a
I told him
baffle.
to stop inviting you, Ed. Sorry.
It's
Listen,
totally a
Lauren,
baffle
you
to
better
me.
be
I have no
careful
idea.
because this show would be very easy to compete with. Mine would just be today in hospitality marketing. Way more current than this week.
Ed.
Exactly.
Just
This
organizing
morning.
the show would be
This
show.
hour. This
Live.
hour.
Yeah.
Live in hospitality.
Just defining the content would beat this show.
All right. Fair enough. But then I'd have to do something.
Yeah.
I mean,
That ain't
it's a
gonna
white
happen.
line you're stepping over. It's not a bar. Anyways, with that in mind, no, there was an article that I found on LinkedIn that was kind of interesting that we can get to later on, but I can never say his name right, but he's a great content writer. Sinji Vin, he's from India. Never say his name. But he talks about how bad conferences are in hospitality.
Oh, Vikram.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Vikram. That's his last name.
Yeah.
His
That's
last
not a
name
hard
is
name to
Vikram.
pronounce.
Yeah.
Right.
The first name, I was trying to struggle with the first name. Sinji.
Nah, no.
I
Same
don't
as
know.
the Vikram. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
His blog is Words of Vikram. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did a great
And
article
Vikram-
shredding conferences.
Vikram is his first name.
No, Vikram's not his first name.
It's Vikram Singh.
Yeah, that's right. It is Vikram. Yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
thinking.
well, I
I
have it
thought his
backwards.
first name was
Vikram.
Yeah.
Who's been on this show?
I can never say his name.
Vikram.
Vikram.
I never say his name. Even when he was
It's
on the
two
joint, I say his
syllables.
name.
It's two syllables.
Wow.
I'm terrible with names. I have self-admitted this for years. I'm terrible with names. How long do you figure it took me to say Ed?
I'm red for you on how
Why?
embarrassing that was.
I really, honestly, I've been starting to think I don't know how to say his name. I never know how to say his name.
That's
I
up
love
there with Trump saying Tim Apple. That is it's up there with that.
Actually, it reminds me of an episode from my favorite canceled series called The League, called
very good.
Carmangello.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I like that one too. No, I self-admittedly am terrible with names. Everybody's Bob for at least a month, except for Ed, which is easier, but it's usually Ood.
And see,
Anyways.
that's why I changed my name to Bob. So that's
Anyways, I liked his article. It had some great points about how bad conferences are.
and I went back and forth on Twitter with him with a couple of recommendations because I thought he was a little light on the specific recommendations. He was saying how bad they were. He had a couple of good ideas, but we went into some real good ones. So we can talk
He
about that.
went very Ed-esque. He went very negative.
If you
on
would like,
everything.
we can
sucked.
start with that. Let's start with that one then.
I got to
What
find the
the-
article though. Hold on.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
you have to be able to pronounce the name of his blog.
No, I
in order to
don't.
find the
No, I
article.
don't. I do not have. That's no rule. Says I got to be able to say his name. It just doesn't. About my blog, about me. Where's his blog? Come on, blog. There it is.
I think you pronounce his blog Wordovsky Vikram. I'm not sure. Is that how you do it?
Hey, I'll take the abuse for that one. But hey, all right, hold on.
I'm actually less embarrassed by your flub on forgetting his name, but more embarrassed by what you were trying to say it was.
What? I honestly suck at names.
That's okay.
Hey, I'm going to go the way of Stuart. I'm offended that you're offended. There. All right.
Exactly.
I'm not
You're
offended, actually. I'm embarrassed.
Stuart, yeah. Well, the odd thing is Stuart, having grown up in in India, on that palatial estate, having the tiger as part of the British Empire, that's he just finds that incomprehensible. So that's the thing.
Inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Yeah, I feel like we need to move on, gentlemen. To the next.
We have to move on. I
Okay.
saw the article listed, and we don't have to do it now. We can do it now if you want to, since you're more caught up with his name than me not saying
Well,
it. But there were some great points about the inefficiencies and idiocies of our industry's conferences.
I would say it's not just our industry, right? I think
Right, it's
conferences
all
it's kind of
in general have become very watered down because people
I
see
mean,
it
quite
as an
honestly,
easy way to make a buck.
if you want to hear about a ridiculous conference, the one my wife goes to, which is an educational conference for high-end event planners, that one's ridiculous.
Yeah, you'd think that would be good considering it's an event.
Yes,
that's
you
true.
would think.
Yeah, I mean,
But
a
is
lot
the
of
content
events
really
have
watered
everything
down?
to do with the hotel, right, or the conference center that it's hosted at, but also it's content. And I'm struggling right now. There's a group. I don't want to shame them on air, but I've been to no, I'm not. But it's a subset of the hospitality industry, and they're struggling for
I know
content.
who you're talking about.
And
They're
you've been
struggling for
to one of
content.
the
They're
conferences
struggling for content, even though they have people
that are more
willing
than capable
to
of
do
producing
really
great
good content for them. Yes.
Yeah, but they do weird things. Like they
But
had
to be
a couple
fair,
of new
as
people on
a-
stage last year that literally stood up there and did a 1 hour pitch of their product was content, and it's just not good.
Yikes.
Yeah. So
Well,
they
it does
they
point out
work
that these conferences aren't so much about the sharing of wealth of information as it is the exposure of content, the sellability of monetizing the conference itself. And every example he
I
gave,
get that you have to cover your costs.
Yeah.
I get it 100%. Do it in a clever way.
Yeah.
Add
Don't take away
value.
from the core.
How
I would
clever
say,
is it to add value?
I'd
Yeah,
say it
and-
differently. I'd say, Ted, don't take away from the core of it. The core is the content. What you surround it with to support the value of the cost to bring it to the market is a different thing. But the core is that when there's something off the stage that's good content, not a sales pitch.
So we actually organized an event 2 years in a row. This is back in like 2003, 2004, and our total budget was probably around $50,000 for the event. But we recouped that in sponsorship and charged $300 for admission and got hundreds of people to show up. But we made sure that the content was the core piece of what we did. We got Scott Stratton for one of them, who's a massive social media personality, has a whole franchise, the unbranding, unpodcast, unagency kind of philosophy going. And then the next year we got Jay Bear on, right? So we had these massive headliners, but then the rest of it, rather than spending a bunch of money, we went and found folks that had just released a book or were just starting out their speaking career that were hungry. And, all we had to do was put them up in a hotel and they would come and speak for free, or they would give away a copy of the book, and then we would just increase the entry fee by $10 or whatever to cover the cost of the book. But we ended up doing it, and it was really, really successful for us. It wasn't just hospitality, but it can be done. But I think the problem is a lot of folks now, I'll give you a prime example. Iva Travel reached out for us yesterday, right? They put on some decent conferences, but they're not cheap. And then they reached out to us to see if we wanted to speak at the conference. And then they were going to charge us $9,000 for a speaking opportunity.
Right.
Which,
Pay to play.
Yeah, which I'm like, well, if I'm paying $9,000, then my content's going to be very different. If I come for free, or I don't have to pay, or it's a nominal fee, I don't mind that. And I'm going to be education. But if I'm having to pay $9,000, now that's an advertising expense. And you better believe I'm going to get more pitchy on stage because I need to get.
But even
$9,000.
your pitchy is going to be better than like.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
They're
Like,
still getting a bargain for
I've
that.
sat and listened to educational sessions by like Adara and STR and whoever sells the credit card company data, and those are among the most offensive. Like they were 3 disparate demos of 3 disparate things on the same exact panel.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It
Yes.
really is embarrassing. It needs
What's
to be
funny
more quality control of content.
is I can tell you, I'm willing to bet you I know what event Vikram is talking about in this.
Oh, there's a couple I could point to that.
Well, this
Oh,
one's high tech.
I think he's
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's high tech. It's the digital marketing conference, I think, based on something he wrote. And yes, those are really watered down events. They're not about what they used to be about.
I would go into also
What,
saying that.
neither of you want to touch that? No.
Yeah, no, I'll be happy.
I mean,
to
do you
run-
agree or disagree?
No,
I mean,
I
think
haven't been to the high tech one in
High Tech and Rock used
years.
to be fantastic events, and I think they have lost their way.
Well, I'll go. I don't even think that it even applies to other ones beyond that too, in the sense that they are, fortunately they did turn around this, but there used to be a pay for play as well. Was the
hotel data
Nashville?
conference. Yeah.
The data.
I still
Yeah, it had
I still haven't
three-
done that event, but I hear such amazing things about it.
It
It
had
was, and then it went
three
back.
really, really bad years
Yeah.
when they went heavy pay to play, and I didn't go this year, but last year was very good.
Yeah, but the boring
So-
panels that he talks about, where no one really wants to actually talk about anything.
Right.
Yeah,
No
I
one's going to
agree.
be controversial, right? Those are all
Right.
what could be an echo chamber in a group.
And this is why I highly
Yeah,
recommend, if you want a controversial panel, you put Stuart and I on a panel.
We've been on a couple that have gone sideways for sure. There was one in particular at a conference where we were debating. Was it voice or AI? I remember, like voice, and we.
It was voice.
Yeah, it was voice, and we took opposing opinions deliberately, and literally
Right.
the other two panelists said like two words, and it was
Nothing.
them watching us like tennis match going back and forward. And by the end of it, I think if you were observing, you would. I mean, we were laying out intelligent like arguments, like laying out why we felt that way. But if you left the stage and came behind the scenes afterwards, you'd thought we were enemies. It was awesome. It was really good.
It was.
Yeah.
And
Well,
actually,
you should have done
later,
flipped opinions, like you convinced each other and then argued opposite.
that would have
Yeah.
been fun.
Well,
later
that-
that evening, someone brought me a tinfoil hat.
That's exactly right.
Excellent.
No, but I mean, all conferences have suffered through their cycles of growth and so forth. I mean, there's ones like the Direct Conference and so forth. I mean, the intent is good. Is the content matching the intent? I don't know. It's great for networking. It's great for engagement. When you go
That's what
personally,
most conferences become, right? It's a networking event.
it's a
not an
networking event
educational
because, in all honesty,
Well-
better content's found online and it's found a lot cheaper than what you can find it when you go to these conferences. These conferences, as you say, their sustainability is based on their financing of stuff. Their panels are based on pre-designated questions. It used to be the bane of webinars until webinars finally turned a little bit more time sensitive, where webinars, by the time they actually launched, were 6-month-old content from people that didn't know they weren't the facilitators of the content to begin with. There was-
Let's be fair.
Hey,
webinars
by the way,
first
can I ask a question of you, Lauren?
Uh,
Why haven't we also recorded this show as a podcast? I think we'd get more
I was
more
going to say
audience.
Actually, I'm going to be pushing the audio on a 20-minute recap.
No, but that's just you,
That's you repeating what we said, though, right?
right?
Yeah, because
Like, why don't you literally just turn
Yeah,
this
you
into
just-
an MP3 and just put it out on its own channel?
Well, because I use Blueberry, and it
So
one
get a
2-hour
BlackBerry.
episode- One 2-hour episode destroys my storage.
Well, don't use Blueberry.
2-hour podcast
Yeah.
up, and it's like, oh, there you go, 200 gigs are gone. Thank
Go
you
to
so much.
SoundCloud, dude. It's unlimited.
Yeah.
SoundCloud, yeah, but you said, well, I have to change subscription because I have Blueberry as an embed on my WordPress, so I have to change platforms I'm distributing
But
from.
just do it as a new feed.
Well, I have a BlackBerry as an outbound on my Schniggerberg.
All
Go,
pilot.
go to Blueberry, man. It's like you pay for this integration thing, which is cool.
Snowsberry
but,
tastes like
man,
Snowsberry.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I should throw it just as a simple straight out.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
By the
audio
way,
is good.
while we're talking about events, Holly introduced me to a very interesting company that recently joined HSMAI in Arizona. And it's this company called Vicara Events.
Yeah.
So their premise is these like basically yoga retreat style events as marquee annual events for hotels.
Ah.
And they've done a couple
Yeah.
that are pretty interesting.
So they do all the programming, and they
Everything.
select a hotel where it's a kind of a turnkey.
They bring the
turnkey thing.
people.
Yep.
It's everything. Yep. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. I've had a couple of conversations with the guy too, and have given him some directions I think he could go in to lessen the friction of trying to bring this to hotels.
Mhm.
He was going after the wrong people, but like this, the reason I found it interesting is I've been to 2 hotel events this year that were for hotel groups that we partner with, where the primary topic of meetings was actually about experiences as the core of the meeting, not the content, but
Right.
actually that people will have a far better experience if there is something meaningful to tie what you're doing to understanding the locals or wellness or something like that. So I think there are new attempts being made to freshen things, but listen, trade shows are trade shows. Like, that's the challenge. And sometimes, like, actually, I'll be honest, my new favorite model are these speed dating events where basically you get preset meetings and you have 3 minutes with the buyers.
Oh yeah.
Those can work.
That's the old powwow.
Hijack's done that for a while, but after a
A
while,
lot of those
it
have been
becomes
really. Yeah.
it becomes really diluted, because the people that are coming are the same ones. The hoteliers coming are the same ones that come year after year, and they're just coming for the free food and drink. Because
Well, no, I
they're
actually haven't been
subsidizing
to the ones you're referring to. This was one in the DMO space by a company called Connect.
it. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it was interesting. So we spoke at the opener of the event, and then did the speed dating, and we've done that now 3 times with them.
Yeah.
So then our speed dating isn't, "Hi, this is who I am," because we spoke.
Yep.
And then after that, it was like just all networking.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
International powwow.
There's
has done
value
that
to
for-
any of those formats, but I got to say, I'd even go a little bit deeper with some things. And I say this because I think I need therapy. I spent 5 hours last night just categorizing all the software I have bought over the past year.
Why?
I'm not done yet. I'm still categorizing this stuff. So I say this with
My
Exact
question
same
is
one.
why? Not just why did you categorize, but why did you buy that much software? Why?
Like I said,
Because-
therapy might be involved.
Why?
He needs a
And
12-step
why might be
program.
involved. There
Actually,
might be
Stuart,
some-
let's ask
I
the
might need
most
an intervention in this. I want to get to a point first, though, before I do this.
Oh.
I have to say that as I've been categorizing these things, we suck when it comes to website descriptions.
Don't lump us into you.
Huh?
Don't lump us into you.
Oh, yeah. I'm lumping this into you. Oh, yeah.
Your
Because
breath.
I go to everybody's website and we talk as if the person listening understands what we're talking about. But when you cold jump into a website when it comes to software services or products or provided anything, there's an assumptive starting point that isn't always accurate. And I think it would be much more helpful in the scope of conference engagement, trade show engagement, that you flat out gave an example of what your product is best at and go from whether they understand that or don't. Because when you read some of these websites on the software services, it's double-speak, cloudy, iffy, mushy stuff. Like, let's just throw everything into a big hopper, hoping that what you're interested in is in there somewhere. And it does that with the trade shows. You walk up to a trade show, and it's purposely designed. When you read the banners and the floor stands and all the rest of the crap, there is no precise indication of what it is. It's a generalized interest that then you have to, it's forcing you to engage to get the rest of the story, which is its intent. Where sometimes if you can just, how often when you go to the high tech and the rest, you walk and breeze down the walkways, you just wish you could read a sign saying, "We create websites." Okay, got it. Compared to, "We substantially improve your dynamic engagement with people online as they provide service opportunities." What the fuck is that?
Well, other
Ours says
other
the
groups have
platform built
technique.
to introduce your travel brand to new audiences worldwide.
Yes, and you fight
Inspire
when
every
people
guest
are seeing you,
journey
though.
to your hotel.
Your best statement was advocacy improvement, but even then, people still don't understand what you do, Ed. You know that.
Well, but see, this
Yeah.
is the difference. What you do and what you're about are two very different things.
Right,
Because
but you have to clarify by
functionally-
engaging the conversation that way. So I say with trade
But
shows
here's
and
the
things like this,
challenge: you're
that they can be a little more precise.
oversimplifying what software as a service is. Because if you're really a platform, an actual platform, not a widget, okay, an actual platform, or like Fuel, you're better than what you're being kind of labeled as. You
Again, I
need
think
to
we
I'm
try
somehow
to
the
make too
steward.
many adjectives into this. Okay, Ed, if you were to say what you did, it'd be like we make people talk about you. I mean, that's pretty much if you want to
Well,
core it down. I mean,
you
but
have
you don't
to
say
you
it
have
that
to
way.
take it from the you have to take it as the benefit.
well
to
because it's
the,
not actual
the buyer.
talking. It's,
Right, you start getting
Yeah.
fluffy. We make your guests share their experiences to their friends, blah, blah, and you
I
have
mean,
to explain.
but
You know,
but
it's
you
like-
have to understand.
Some- we
First of
help-
all, it's
we help guests
challenging because
love you or
this
something like
industry,
that.
this industry, so badly wants you to fit in a very bland box. And as soon as they put you in that bland box, you are competing with stuff that makes no sense. Like,
Right.
No,
yeah.
no.
You guys get bundled in with folks like Stackler, and it's crazy because you're completely different value proposition.
Completely
and yet people
different.
don't see the difference. It's
Yeah,
insane.
right. So
Or-
obviously, how you're
or
describing
worse,
yourself
you
is still
get
not
like pushed
working.
into like site conversion tool stuff, and it's like, no,
But
we're-
it's still that
Well,
means what you're saying.
or
is
you
you're
read-
everything under
if
their
we're
foot.
talking about like honest trailers style, I mean, do you think anyone in our industry would understand what a marketing
Dude,
automation
let's do that.
platform
Let's do
is?
honest trailers for all of the major vendors in the space.
Yeah, I mean, so flip
Oh,
to
that would be
a marketing
really good.
automation platform with strategy baked in.
That
I mean, that's
turns
what it is.
your guests into advocates. Yeah.
But that doesn't even matter. Like, it's a marketing automation platform with strategy plugged in.
Yeah, but then if you just say marketing automation, then you get
Yeah,
Right,
but
but
then
it's
you're
that,
like,
right?
like Marketo. So you compete with Marketo. They're great.
We do. But the thing that
Well,
makes us competitively different is the strategies baked in. The
But again,
strategy
right.
that we've chosen is advocacy. But we are competitive with HubSpot. We're competitive with Marketo.
Right.
And honestly, we're better for the hotel industry than they are because it's unrealistic that any hotel or hotel group
Yeah.
could actually correctly deploy Marketo to fully take
Oh, yeah.
advantage of what it can really do. So that's why we built our own marketing automation platform with strategy in it.
I was going to dog on Dan for
And
a
the keys
second.
to
Where's
strategy.
his business
That's the
card? I
bottom-
think I
yeah.
got Dan's business card still here. We
So
all
then,
made a
Stuart,
comment about Dan's business
what do you
card.
think your real honest trailer is?
Mine?
the fuel real honest trailer. I don't know. I'd have to give it some thought.
Mine's I fix things.
See, our challenge is
not
to do a
honest
lot
trailer.
of different things, right? But at the end of the day, I don't know. Let me give that some thought. I
A
could throw
better
something
marketer-
out.
Remember, we talked
better
about Dan's
marketing
business
staff.
card. Dan, we love you. Dan, you do great. But Dan, you got a lot going on the business card. Okay.
So, all right, let me
Well,
give a
he's
crack
started-
at fuel. Let me give a crack at fuel.
All right, go.
Okay. A better shopping cart for your website and cell phone.
That's one part of what we do, right?
Well, but haven't you started like kind of shifting down to the core? Like if I'm going just
I mean,
product, not
Yeah, that one product, right? But then it doesn't.
an
take into
email,
account
so
the
communication.
CRM. It doesn't count the mobile app. So, but yeah, I
Well,
mean,
the mobile
that-
app, it said your cell phone.
Yeah, but that's more.
Honest.
That goes beyond the shopping cart, right? Because it's
Right.
it's the
Yeah.
whole.
You know what Roberts is? Docent of the industry.
Mine just have on the back.
And Lauren's is squirrel.
Mine's I fix
So,
things. That's
hey,
my
since
program.
we-
Somebody ask quickly what I do. I
I
fix things
fix
and I make
things
you
by
money. That's it.
breaking them. I fix things by
Adding more
breaking them.
complexity. I'm making
Love that
marketing
kind of
mix
comment.
more complex by adding a bunch of software subscriptions.
That's,
That's right.
So-
I will
so
plug
we
in
brought
more
up-
software than you have plugs for.
we
That's
we
exactly-
brought up Vikram's article. Haven't talked about it. But that's okay. That
What are you
is
talking
the
about? We
essence
talked
of
about
the
it for
show.
a bit.
I was going to throw in one. Yeah, no, I was going to say one thing with Focusrite because you're saying $300 conference. Focusrite's a $4,000 conference.
Yep.
and they broadcast the thing live. All
Live,
the keynote
no.
sessions are broadcast live right now, which is people thought was crazy. But they do a couple of things. One is they get top name. Well, when you're charging $4,000, a good example is HSMAI. I've told them, broadcast this thing, let more people see it, so then they want to come, and then they can get benefit from the networking and things like that. And then you can get get more people. You may be able to charge more money, and then you can get better speakers, and then you can do more interesting things. But
we got to shape up our act because NYU's watching us.
Oh, well, good. Well, welcome NYU. but anyway, for the key, there are like 3 keys to Focusrite. One is they do get top name people, right? So that's very, very important. We have CEOs and things like that.
Yeah, and those
but
aren't
they
vendors
don't.
that are going to be pitching their product. Those are industry knowledgeable people.
Oh yeah,
Yes, but
and
my
that
favorite is they
beyond
like
frowned
put those
upon.
out in front of the vendors, going, "Look who the speakers are." But they all like act like those people hang out after they speak.
Yeah, they're
They
all
were
for
like-
an hour. And
Oh
then
no,
they
a lot of them
They're
do.
like hats on, heads down with blinders as they walk
Not a
through the
focus
crowd.
right. Focus
No,
right.
Not a Focusrite.
Yeah.
Tell me
Focus
how.
Have you ever-
right there.
Eye for
You've
Travel.
never been to a Focusrite? Oh, I've never been to an Eye for Travel.
Eye for Travel. That is exactly.
Oh,
what
absolutely. And
their
I hear a
speakers
lot
do,
of very
But Eye
negative
for Travel
feedback.
will call you as a vendor, being like, "Look, we got this person in. We think they're a great fit for you." And it's like, okay, so should I go up on stage while they're talking? Because that's the only time you're going to
Hence
see that.
why I sit in the front
Totally
row and
Kanye
raise my
West there, man.
hand, because that's the only window you usually get is while they're on stage. They got to prove why they're on stage. So if they can answer, if they have
Yeah.
Q&A, I want to make sure I get one in. Regardless, I will always have a question for them,
Yeah,
even if I have
no,
to make it up on the spot.
Focusrite, they're around. They won't spend all 3 days, but they will be there. Yeah, before and after. Yeah, for some things, and it just depends. But they do that. Number 2, the presentations are worked through. You don't necessarily feed the questions, because if you feed the questions and they're prepared, it's horrible.
Look, if we really
But at least you talk about the subjects, and you figure out, especially if it's a large publicly traded company, you've got to figure out what they can and what they can't talk about, right? So you at least kind of know the playpen, so you don't ask them a question and they go, "I can't talk about that," right? So there's a little bit of prep. But I mean, when I talked to Kellen Smith-Kenny from Hilton, and she
Did you hear how easily he said that person's name, Lauren? And that was a far more complicated name.
I do not take any credit for knowing people's names. I will never do that. You can't drag me into it. Ain't gonna happen. Bob.
Yeah. But the first thing she came out and basically said was the whole discounting and giving discounts to loyalty members was, they were pivoting away from that stuff and going to how do they increase value and engagement and all these sorts of things that are really, really good and important. And I mean, people were like, "Oh, she's kind of, let's."
I know
right?
that he dumped on all the different patterns of conferences and so forth, but there are certain realities that we all agree with. One, how often do you go back and download the slide deck? And be honest, a good slide deck is useless without the content of the speaker using it, because it should be just
Not
visual.
with mine, because all the content is
I'll
on
rip
there.
it off. I'll borrow
Okay.
slides from it.
Second, how often do they even moderate what you're doing for content? They're just happy you showed
that's
up and
my
you're
problem.
there.
There's no
Oh, yeah.
quality control.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how often I have because I promote conferences for, different things for HSMI and beyond, is that they get somebody that says, "Oh, this is what we want you to do." And then the person shows up and has some stale ass pre-canned thing that they didn't even prep for. They didn't even match what the content match was for. And they just occupied space, or it was a sales pitch. And the people that are running the conference can't take them off stage, but have to listen to 45 minutes of diatribe about their product services. We've seen all of that happen. It's inherent in the system. If you want a good conference, you do a lot what Focusrite does, but not charge as much. You mitigate the content to make sure it's correct. You mitigate the presenters to ensure that there's some collaboration of them being there for value, in the sense they're not walking, as Ed says, off stage.
Every
to go
presenter
somewhere.
should present to a panel or some internal staff member of the organization team
Well,
Right.
beforehand. That
And-
should
and
be a
focus
pre-
like
It's
the day
approved and
before-
accepted and understood, and
The
that
day
there
before
is some
they go
residual
on.
time that they're there, so that there is some value to their name being put to the marquee. You do these things, and you're all of a sudden going to have a solid conference
Yeah.
because
Well, no, but okay. Here's a great example. Focusrite, they do a run through the day before. That's why these people are around too, right? So they're there over.
Presentation.
They're there over full presentation, full final slide deck, no changes, none of this.
Are they
crap.
paying these presenters?
In some, no, generally not.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's
but they want to be there. But you've got all the Wall Street analysts, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You've got
right.
the Mark Mahaney's and the Brian Nowaks and all these guys.
right.
They're
And
all
the
there.
Robert
You've got,
You just pulled a few minutes ago. You pulled a Last Jedi on us. You said there were 3 things, and you only gave us 2.
yes.
So what was the
That's
third?
true. And the third one is the way they structure the trade show, and there are only a few hotels that'll fit it because there used to be one in Scottsdale, Weston and Scottsdale, that they outgrew. They can't fit it, so they basically have the Diplomat in Hollywood, Florida, and the JW Marriott LA Live. But they put ballroom outside of the main 1,500 seat theater thing, which is the main center stage stuff. So they have to walk through the trade show to go get to it. And so they'll do all the snacks and lunch in the trade show thing. And that's kind of everywhere. And then they do have the 30 companies that do the, which is a pay-to-play innovation summit, which I have been critical of in the past. They've had good people, but it's $15,000 a pop for your 7 to 9 minute pitch on stage, but they have those guys strung around the outside, so everybody has to go by these people. I mean, so there's no other way into the room, right? And so they've concentrated the crowds.
Which that
made
always
sure
feels
that
great as a vendor. Hey, you feel like the guys in the mall that like want to clean your sneakers.
Yeah, but it's a large enough room too where it isn't just one path. I mean, it's a
because
they organize it
through all of them, and all the vendors are clamoring for it.
But
so
again,
do all the shady tactics.
But those three things make it work, and they make a fortune. You start doing the numbers at 1,500 people at $3,000 to $4,000, depending if they did the early bird or not. 35 companies at $15,000. It's a lot of money, but the production value is also super, super high, and it's 3 days long. So, but again, Skift is doing. I think Skift may have gone to 2 days, but it's not the same thing.
When's the
right?
this week Hospitality Digital Marketing Summit going to be? I feel like we could get some good content.
I'm trying. I'm just getting my software organized.
Okay, and Vic
when you're done with that next year. Let's start talking about
that is what this month has been about, is really trying to clean up and organize myself, because I do want to do those things, so that everything we're talking about is something that I believe should be and could be done for content value, not for monetization, or that we're going to make these conference schedules that are going to dominate the world and make millions of dollars. It's more about, can we bring relevant, timely content and a persistent basis to people that need it, and not people that can travel for $2,000, $3,000 to go to these things, but pay to be just a participant in it because they're at a property level. They're not in the exec committee, or even if they are in the exec committee, the hotel is small enough or not big enough, to go.
But here's the answer to your question: you can't.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Not in person. You can't do what you just said. You cannot bring
the networking is relevant. Different. The networking is something different,
right? But let's be honest. You added some caveats in there that make it impossible. You couldn't do it frequently enough for it to be relevant to timeliness. So
it's fine. I think quarterly is fine.
I don't think you can do that with them coming to you.
No, not
going to
them. No.
Yeah,
once a year, twice a year, maybe.
That's what I'm saying.
Not a travel to conference. No, absolutely not. No.
Right. Okay.
So then it's not frequent and timely if it's Daniel. Yeah.
Anyway, the pitch
actually, it could be virtual. It could be
the pitch for the Focusrite conference this year. Kara Swisher is going to keynote, and I'm sure Kara is getting paid. Actually, I think the CEOs and things like that aren't, but Kara Swisher of Recode and Pivot, who I'm a huge fan of, and she will be awesome because she is absolutely unfiltered, outspoken on what's going on in tech, and that's what you want in the conference. You want some frank,
Like Silicon Valley has lost its mind. and no longer really looks into companies' fundamentals before throwing just
Right.
Stupid money at it.
garbage loads.
I'll
of
throw in
cash.
Ed's all in on WeWork then, I guess.
Okay.
We work.
I will also throw in one that Vikram. How's that? Did I say it right?
You did,
and put
because
in-
it's not hard to say.
it is for me. Is this what we do with marketing? Is what is being also done with conferences? Is this mind-numbing variations and repetitive numerics? Like you just pointed out, you can't go to everything. And even if you went and dedicated yourself to one entity and tried to go to everything they offered, you couldn't afford to go to all of that either, because it's like they're throwing stuff out, waiting for it to stick on a wall. Well, we're going to do this for the summer. We're going to do this for the end of the summer. We're going to do this for a breakfast series, lunch series, sales versus revenue versus marketing. There's just so much stuff that's getting slapped out there that you get this, oh yeah, another invitation to go to what? Yeah, okay, no, you get overwhelming the variations of, it's like whatever sticks is what's being thrown out there, and you get this white noise feel from it all. If you're going to
There's a
do
lot
it,
of noise in general in this industry. In general,
You need sufficient quality to attract important people who want to be there, probably for the network, for the networking aspect.
but the
is
freaking
probably
capabilities most
the
definitely.
bottom line.
If
To
you're looking
really
for
be
content, you
successful.
don't need that. You
Well,
need
it depends.
content experts.
and it depends on what your agenda is, right? If you, as someone that's organizing an event, is trying to build membership in some kind of community, if you're trying to make money,
Yeah.
if you're trying to get more famous, if you're trying to get a leg up or make it look good on your resume, different people. Or if you're trying to actually make a difference in the hospitality industry by providing great education, which
Stop it! No one does that.
I don't think anyone is literally doing that. But different conferences going to have different goals, and that's fine. I mean, some of the ones I've been to are garbage, absolute garbage, but I go because of the networking, and that's it.
Right.
And you get free socks.
You're
Well,
like the
but-
trash panda of the hospitality industry.
Yeah, but if the networking, if you
I've
can
been
see
called
all those, if you can see all those same people at a conference 60 days later, you're going to drop one off.
Right.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
Ed, you don't have a booth at High Tech, right? So
Haven't for a while. It's not
Dude,
been worth it.
Dude,
Right.
you met me at High Tech. What are you talking about? The ROI for you in High Tech is infinite. Are you kidding me?
That's
right
true.
now?
True.
maybe there was a cause and effect relationship for that.
That was the
decision.
last
So
one they
everything-
did that, to be honest. Like, we
It was a
don't talk
mic
like
drop.
this
It was a
enough.
mic drop moment. I knew I couldn't do better. So
That's
why
right.
keep putting money in? Goal achieved.
Hey,
He
for
met
next year,
Stuart.
Stuart, I have an idea
Yeah.
for high tech. I always thought that would be interesting is that, one of the things with high tech or any of the trade shows, you're walking through and you try to keep these semi blinders on that you don't make eye contact. So somebody's like, hey, how you doing? And you're like, look, I just want to kind of see where everything's at. Doing a video pitch that people can just get prior to it of what it is your booth's about, just
Mhm.
because nobody does video.
But
well.
here's the thing. Excuse me.
No, they don't. Go to high tech shit. Go look at that stuff.
Go look
They
at our
don't do
video.
well,
Our video's good.
huh?
No one
You were
watches
at high
it.
Well,
tech.
Lauren
Okay.
just
No, no,
offended
Lauren.
Ed.
Lauren,
He's
that is an
apologized.
idea.
Give him back his
That is
toy.
an idea, but look at what Stuart did this year. Stuart resorted to the tried and true method of using booth babes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what did he do? He put Lauren in there.
He got a
right?
bunch of
To
middle-aged men to come and attract his ideal client.
I stand by my strategy. Lauren Gray is the best booth babe anyone can use.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
You're
that's
the booth babe.
He knows everyone in the industry, literally everyone in the industry.
It's like
And
having a
you know what?
giant
Even if he
talking
doesn't
teddy
know them,
bear.
he'll go up to them and butcher their name like he does know them, and they'll think
That's right, Bob.
God, I can't tell you how much I wish right now we were just on a phone call because, man,
there's some things I
I have
would
so much to say about
Wow.
the butchering
Ed-
of Vikram.
Ed, that's excellent. Ed is exhibiting self-control.
Yeah,
That's
Ed
excellent.
has a
Therapy
purpose.
has
It's
been
not
working,
like-
right?
I'm
Well,
marking
you know what it is?
211 down, man.
The
211
amazing,
is the
the
benchmark.
amazing slap in the face of watching Stuart last week. Forget that we were on a broadcasted show.
Forget. I just lack-
That's all right. I'm standing by Stuart too. I'm offended that you're offended that I'm offended that you're offended.
I'm not
me.
offended.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed and I'm dying to give you a hard time about it, but I can't say what I want to say because we're being broadcasted.
That's too good. All right.
That's a
Hey,
first
so
for it. Wait, no. The bottom line, Vikram and I came up with 2 great things to spice up conferences. Number one is you get an octagon and MMA rules apply. So you want to talk brands versus OTAs?
No. I can name a couple of vendors I'd like to get into the octagon.
Okay, there you go. See, people would pay to watch it. But then,
exactly.
But then Vikram came up with a better one for true audience engagement. You do a purge. Then, oh yeah,
I can tell you how many vendors I'd like to purge.
Exactly.
Ed,
so there you go. Those are the two
I
ideas.
said it.
So.
I said it in a positive tone, though, so that should make it okay.
It makes it all okay.
Yeah. Ed wants
Hi,
the
Mr.
good ones
Robert.
left. It's a positive. So anyway, Lauren, that's some programming. Make a couple notes for the
All 3 of
hospitality
them.
marketing show. No, those two things, kind of, a couple pillar events. You want to have those. So pillar sessions.
Listen, there isn't a shortage of quality talent out there that can produce a great presentation, an educational presentation. There's lots of folks out there that are happy and willing to do it for free.
We know them. Like
Right.
Tim Peters really good at it.
Excellent.
Dan Waxman actually has had a couple of really good ones.
Robert's good, although very long-winded. He's very good. Lawrence is a little all over the place, but also very good, right? So I think
Stuart, one of
my
my favorite things you've done was your what was it? Your 7-minute
review HSMAI a couple of years ago. Yeah.
I've actually, if you remember, you may not because it may not have been important to you, but I've ripped off a couple of your slides. I asked, and you said okay, but like your
Most
7
of my
minutes.
stuff anyway,
I remembered.
I can make 7 minutes feel like a whole lot longer for sure.
Well, that's the other point that he makes out of it too. Right? Don't give somebody an hour just out of convenience of time slotting. Give them 30 minutes and 10 minutes of talk, 10 minutes of Q&A, so they can press it down to quality content. The other is with the panels, and it's so true. The panels we remember the most are the ones that disagree. Like you guys were just talking about, you guys going on either end of a conversation. The panels are meant to create dialogue, not 10 minutes of when I was born. I went into hospitality, blah, blah, blah. I can read the bio. What I want to know is insights from you. And to go over and think that somebody from a publicly traded company is going to give you insights is you're walking into the wrong place.
I believe Stuart
get it from people that are going to give you information that, is disagreeing. So put people in contrast. And if there's really industry experts, as he points out, why the hell do they need to prep on questions you're already giving them? Let them shoot from the damn hip.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You recently were forced to moderate a panel that basically none of the people spoke to each other beforehand. So it was really like a handful of just disparate sales pitches that had nothing to do with each other. And
I was actually on the panel and trying to get some cohesion between it. And it was 5 people on the panel, which is too many for a 1 hour panel, and a moderator. And 4 of the other people.
He says on a web show that generally has 4 to 5 people on it and goes 3 hours.
Content, right? But there were 4 straight up pitches from the other panelists and a straight up pitch from the moderator, and then me trying to add some. Well, here's some generic stuff.
Here's how in-room technology ties in with credit card processing.
I guess if we're not worried about being invited back, we should just step on everybody at the time and go, really, is this a panel of discussion or a panel of sales pitches,
Well, here's the thing. People that want to pay for their placement in these kind of things are typically the ones that have to because they have bad products or bad sales strategy, or they're not getting traction.
Or they're salespeople. They're not even the content expert.
That's the thing. The people that show up are salespeople, and they're the worst people to be standing up on stage and talking about innovation and trends and educating people on how-tos. So,
well, and that's part of the problem too. Is just because someone has a VP in front of their sales title doesn't mean they're capable of building quality content.
Correct.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But there are a lot of people that are. So pick them and stop pandering to the people that are willing to pay you the most. Focus on content. Content.
So here's one other topic. I did this actually once with John Burns. It was a little pre-planned in advance, and then actually I did a great panel with Milestone Conference with it was just Tim and I talking back and forth. Asking questions. That was good. But
so it was just you speaking.
So let's say we have Stuart. Yeah, exactly. Tim can hold his own. Let me.
Hey, this show covered you up.
That's right. So wait, what if we had this Stuart and Ed, for example, right?
We do that a lot.
There's a topic on whatever, Well, yeah, but there's a topic, blockchain,
Right.
or
Debate it,
whatever
right?
it may be,
Have
and then you
opposition.
draw from a hat, positive, pro, and
I would
con,
love
and
to
you
see
don't
more of
know
that
which one you're
competition.
going to get,
Yep.
and you
That would
then
be a lot
you
of
then
fun.
debate.
Let's
Right?
do it.
Yeah,
I
I would
thought
enjoy the heck out of that.
I'd be
I
happy
think
to do it.
another.
Anyone who is
Yeah.
watching the show
Yeah.
that wants Stuart and I to go up on stage and randomly grab bag a topic and a position, we would be happy to do it.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. I can argue any
Yep, me
position.
too.
on
I've
any
always said that.
topic, for
I
sure.
think Tim would be game for it too. So
Yeah.
Hey,
I
this
confidently
day,
can
quad
speak
pack.
about things that I
Having
do
a
not
Calvin-
know without a problem.
no,
Yeah.
I still, and I'll
And
give
make the
Calvin,
entire audience think you're a genius about that topic.
I'll give
Correct.
Calvin Anderson credit for this. When the first time we ever brought up this emergence of marketing and revenue management, we did it as a point counterpoint, a Jane Curtin, Dan Aykroyd version from old
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live. You know,
Yep.
Jane, your ignorant slut. If we ran our business like you run your personal life, we'd have every 2-bit business hanging around. You know, that kind of thing. And so we started contrasting between why marketing was better than revenue, revenue was better than marketing,
Yeah.
and we purposely switched positions in our presentation to then start supporting the other person. You know, I see your point. With that data, I could do this, and then he'd start saying, "It's like, you know, if I knew that kind of insight, then I could do this." And we put, and it's still remembered to this day. And this was back in
I
2000.
would pay to see that. You could do a modern version of that this year, and it would still be just as relevant. Because
It
the
is.
sad thing is, the industry has not moved on fast enough
Has
from
not
that
moved
divide
on.
between revenue and marketing.
No, but
Well, what would be
one of the first ones,
really
we
fun
did
is
point
to
by
not let the
counterpoint.
audience know that that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, for sure. It would be a surprise, right?
Yeah.
All true, all true.
For
Well,
sure.
thanks for letting us go down
Well,
the 50-minute pipeline
yeah,
of me just
We're,
going up and
we're an hour into the show, and we haven't even touched the first topic yet. It's great.
Mr. Robert.
Quality show.
well, I know Stuart loves Airbnb, so I thought a great topic would be article Airbnb beat Expedia in booked room nights. Now, again, this is just hotel, nothing to do with booking air and things like that, which Expedia books a lot of
All
that
right.
makes no money on.
So it doesn't include any of the room nights that Expedia booked as part of packaging, is what you're
no,
saying?
that wouldn't. No, that would include all the packaging. It doesn't include any air type bookings, right? Because that always clouds the.
I'm
clouds the
boycotting
status.
this out of principle. I'll come back on screen when you're done.
Oh, now see, this is a dangerous thing. I think you need to look at the order of magnitude on this, though. That basically they calculated out that in the first quarter, Airbnb generated about 90 million room nights, which is a lot. Now, Booking.com is at like close to 220, but Expedia is only at 81. Right, so you kind of go Airbnb's on the fringes and doing some things, and okay, they've got some legal situations, and maybe they should or shouldn't be able to be doing certain things, but just the raw scope of or the volume of business.
Here's
is,
what's interesting.
pretty-
I want to create
there
a
is
hot
scale
takeoff
there.
of this. I want to take a takeoff of this that probably none of you were thinking about. If I was Expedia, I would look at this very differently than what you're probably thinking. And the way I would look at this would confirm for me that I do not need the major hotel brands.
Right, absolutely.
And I would take a much harder line approach to working directly with them.
Mm-hmm.
As
I would
this
think so.
proves, Airbnb outperforming them in room nights proves that Expedia does not need the major hotel brands. And if they don't need the major hotel brands, they do not need to be making the concessions they're currently making.
Yeah.
And instead, if I was Expedia, I'd be going all in.
I would
the other
say
direction.
Expedia. I would say they need them, but just not as much. They should not be giving as because those major hotel brands need Expedia too. And here's the example.
Well, this is
really
why I was
should-
making this point. Airbnb is devoid of that inventory.
Right,
Correct.
right.
And
absolutely.
Airbnb proves
It also has
that
a lot
without
of
that
inventory that Expedia doesn't have access to. And it also has a lot of types of inventory that Expedia, even with the HomeAway acquisition, hasn't done a good job of integrating in yet.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the cost equation of what it would take to easily catch up on the inventory side. I mean, listen, if there's anyone who knows how to get inventory, it's Expedia. Okay, so the cost to acquire the new type of inventory to displace this inventory that's a squeezed margin could be an interesting.
Maybe, but they'd have to go
Maybe
hand
even-
in hand against Airbnb with the hosts, right?
They're already
Which that-
trying to.
They
They're
are
already
trying to.
trying.
They're not really
Airbnb is
getting
built. Airbnb
traction.
is probably at this point with this scale built a moat, right? Because the main challenge with a lot of these businesses, like you look at like the Ubers and the Lyfts and the WeWorks, all of that is just you need a local place, right? And local demand, and that is really hard to create barriers to entry. Other people who have enough money can kind of come in there and go compete with you locally. Airbnb, though, needs to collect people from around the world, and that is more expensive and a lot harder because you've got to get people from somewhere else to stay, in each of these locations. So you need a bunch of supply everywhere, and you need a bunch of demand from everywhere. And even if you're doing it in the local area starting off, you still need demand from a much broader market thing, which is expensive to get. So Airbnb is doing a very very good
they're
job.
massive, right? And they're growing, and
Right.
that's why they're becoming an OTA is because they're
going to be
maintain growth. They have to
the
get
good
into retail space.
that came out of the whole sharing economy.
Yeah.
They're going to be the good.
Right.
Yeah,
They're the real.
I mean-
they are the real business here. Yeah, as
The,
opposed
the
to
only
Ubers
real
and the-
business that came
because
out of
they're also profitable. They aren't losing 50 cents on the dollar by growing and trying to develop scale, right? They
Well,
have a
because their
reliable
business model
funding.
isn't to sell dollar bills for 50 cents. I mean, that
Exactly.
is Uber's business model is we sell dollar bills for half.
Exactly. Yeah, the classic is, and again, you guys should listen to the Pivot podcast with Cara Swisher and Scott Galloway. It's excellent, absolute excellent podcast. But they said what you should really do, you're stupid if you do not office in a WeWork and take an Uber and Lyft to get there because you're getting so much value for it
Right.
versus what at least relative to their costs of providing the services. But,
And they're really just
Yeah.
saying that because they're over invested in all of those companies.
no, they aren't. Oh no,
I'm just
they are
kidding.
grossly negative on those guys. Okay, here's a good trivia question. I did a little math here. Okay, so we're saying 91
You did a
million
little
room
math?
nights. A little math. That's how
No,
I
he
prep
did a
for the
little
show.
math and a lot of math.
So, Airbnb 91 million room nights, Booking 217 million, right? Expedia 80 million. How many would Marriott have? And I'll give you a hint.
Do they get to count the ones that came from Expedia and Booking?
Yeah, count them all.
Then it doesn't matter.
No. Well, when you see the number, it'll be interesting, I think.
All right, what's the number?
The total, okay, Marriott has about a little over 1.3 million rooms,
Yeah.
right? And they ran in the first quarter 68.7 occupancy. That comes out in the first quarter to about 81 million room night, about the same as Expedia.
Idea.
So all of a sudden you go, Airbnb is generating whatever 11-12% more room nights in a quarter than Marriott, which all of a sudden you look at it from that point and go, wow, that's pretty, and they're growing at 30%.
It's not at all shocking.
It's not.
Marriott is not a consumer acquisition company.
No, but they are the largest traditional hotel group in the world with 1.3 million rooms available 365 days a year.
Well, see, this
somewhat.
is where I disagree with you. They no longer own hotels.
Oh no, I agree that, yeah.
So they are a brand.
Right.
That isn't a customer acquisition
Ooh.
focused company.
Should you be a brand that isn't focused on customer acquisition or customer retention?
Well,
That's
They may say that they're focused on it, but their actions
they're-
don't show it.
to be fair,
They're
they
investing
are
in it.
focused on customer acquisition, but not the guest as the customer, the franchisee as the customer.
Well, that's
Right.
correct. So you're right. Their customer is not the traveler. Their customer is the real estate owner.
Mhm.
right.
So should you be comparing a real estate based model versus a consumer play?
Well, from the branding perspective to the consumer, I would think that's
Hold on a
important.
second. If we go to extend that conversation, then is Marriott not in the same situation? Because as a franchisor Are they not more centric on the people that are going to buy their franchise than the guests that are using the franchisee's product?
What?
Well,
They're not to go over and have a hotel.
Run that past me again. You lost me.
Marriott's the same thing you just said Airbnb is.
No, they're not.
They're out to franchise. They're not out to guests. They're out to
Airbnb
franchise.
is a focused organization that is focused on one thing, and that is why they're successful.
well, yeah, but Airbnb has always been about the host and the guest, right? They want to make sure the hosts are happy and things are working well and simply for the host
Well, Airbnb is a
to make that happen.
marketplace.
Right.
They're
Yeah,
both sides
exactly.
of the equation.
Exactly.
Marriott is not.
Marriott is
Yeah.
out there to go over and get franchisees.
Right.
That's
They're
what
not a
we were saying,
marketplace.
I think you misheard.
They're an
this part of
they're an
the
inventory.
conversation.
Yeah.
We were talking about Marriott when we were saying that.
Oh, I was saying exactly the same thing then. See, great
Yeah,
minds
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Again, violent agreement.
Yeah. Confused agreement. Yep.
Yeah.
My wife
Damn it,
wanted to do
Stuart.
But anyway, I think
I agree with
for
you.
Marriott, in
I agree with
terms
you.
of pure, how are you filling your rooms? Because when you don't own and manage the hotel, and those franchisees are looking for you to attract businesses, especially if you're in Manhattan and you've got 90 other properties on the platform.
Right.
That's a challenge. Am I getting my fair share? Is a
So can I
big
gripe
question.
a little bit about this article? Because it exemplifies my issue with the Airbnb phenomenon, right? And I need to have a term for that, what my issue is. Because my issue isn't necessarily with Airbnb. It's with the industry's reaction to Airbnb. And to their credit, Airbnb are phenomenal at public relations. They've dodged so many bullets. You know, there's so many negative things that have cropped up about them that they've just they're more Teflon than Trump is at this point. It's unbelievable. And they come out with these
big
stories.
difference. They've dealt with it very intelligently and strategically, which is
No
not
comment on that.
exactly
No
the
comment.
hallmark of
Says
They're
the
not
guys
ignoring
wearing
them.
the
They're
red
walking around
shirt.
saying they're the chosen one. Is that?
Yeah, I'm not going down that road. But even though I brought it up. But this, to me, is another piece of PR spin that they've reproduced. Because if you look at the numbers, and even this article kind of questions some of it.
Are you calling fake news?
No, I'm saying that there's maybe some Enron math going on here, where they're not completely transparent about what the numbers are, where they're from, when they're from. They're certainly not apples to
They're
apples.
privately held.
Well, they don't have to, and that's my point, right? I'm not saying they have to do any of those things, which
Right.
Expedia does. So we know exactly what we're looking at when we're looking at Expedia numbers. So someone at Airbnb has cooked up these numbers.
Oh, and actually, I can give you a very explainable way that they could do that.
Well, you look at
Jeez.
is it booking
Hold
versus
on.
consumption?
A
Is it
sale.
lot of
Well, they
things?
said room nights.
Right.
So a sale of a house with 8 bedrooms
Correct.
is
No.
every night an 8 times multiplier.
No, they aren't doing that.
How do you say no? You don't know
Right,
that.
you
They
don't know
could
that,
actually-
Rob.
I
I can give you
Absolutely.
a
I've
Right
reason
done
why
enough.
that's
Let's say I've
justifiable.
done enough work
But Robert-
around the Airbnb stats.
I
and
would,
numbers.
I would also
That's not how
contest
they're
with
doing it.
AirDNA that when you're doing the math on that platform for that kind of stuff, that stuff is not a part of the equation of numerics that they use.
Well,
Right.
why shouldn't it be? If they end up selling a 15-person occupancy room and they're being compared on room nights, why should they not get that multiplier?
No, you're right. They should be focused on guests or something like that. Yeah.
Right. But
Good point. And
How do you know? How do you know this data
oh well,
doesn't?
actually,
Exactly.
the
You
one
guys
thing
are
that's not
proving
on
my
here is
exact point, right?
reservations.
You're
Yeah,
proving my
their
exact
length
point.
of stay is longer, so it's not as many bookings, right? The booking number is lower because I think their length of stay is about double average.
sure.
Like
you,
Expedia,
you,
something like
you
that.
see my point though, right? That there's certainly some opacity to the data, but it's being compared apples to apple. Our industry is choosing to compare that apples to apples with Expedia to create more fear and doubt in the industry about
Are you
Airbnb.
saying
And
we're
that is
wrongfully
exactly
putting them
what-
in a box?
It's crazy. It's crazy how fearful this industry is of Airbnb. And again, I'm going to go back to what I say before. I don't know a single client of mine that hasn't gone up in occupancy year over year,
Right.
hasn't gone up in ADR year over year. Right. So Airbnb, with all this stink, hasn't it negatively impacted the hotels that I deal with.
And a lot of your
Oh,
clients are in
well.
markets that have a ton of
Heavy
inventory.
vacation rental, right? Including
Right.
a lot of Airbnb. So the
Oh no,
industry
I think you can defend against this, but they're taking a chunk of the pie, right?
Sure, but
Which
so is
Sure.
every other building that's going up in your
Right.
Oh,
But
no,
here's the
exactly.
other thing too.
Exactly.
Airbnb could not beat Expedia easily at what Expedia does, which
Right.
Expedia sells hotels.
Right.
If Airbnb wanted to gain ground in that space, they will be met with what is that?
That's the
Is that a tail?
It's a florkin.
It's a
It's a
tail.
florkin.
Um,
It's my
if
florkin.
they want to beat Expedia at Expedia's game, they need to be selling Expedia's inventory and taking inventory from Expedia.
which is not their priority right now. Even though they're dipping their toe in the hotel space and they do want to do that, they're being really bad about finding partners, right? You cannot. I've talked to so many vendors that have access to inventory and would want to put it, fuel included, want to put it on their platform, and they will not let us do it yet because they're partner by partner by partner, really slow. This is worse than Google Hotel Ads was in its infancy.
It's
really,
interesting.
really
Yeah, it's interesting though. But I don't think they are looking at it for a short term. Let's add all these guys to the platform approach. I think they're being very, very careful with their brand and approach, right?
They're
To
very
make sure that they're
right. They don't want to dilute who they are. They don't want
right. They're being
new guy to come in and replace them as the platform that someone can go rent out their inventory on.
And they don't want to be. They don't want to be put in Expedia's box because Expedia's box gets Expedia's valuation method, which is problematic on an IPO.
Yeah.
Not that Expedia's got a bad valuation or anything. I'm just saying they don't want to be defined by something that already exists because that limits how much money they make upon an IPO.
Yeah, but they've also got to continue to show growth because Wall Street loves growth, right? It's not necessary. Yes, they're profitable, which is important, but growth is more important than Wall Street these days. So they've got to find ways to find new inventory, and it's not like they can go to every town and tell 1,000 other people to open up their spare rooms to put on Airbnb. That's just not going to happen. So they have to go into other types of inventory to make it happen, either buying apartments and putting it on an Airbnb or going into the hotel space. But my point's still
or
stop focusing on Airbnb, focus on your guests, and you'll be just fine.
Right. Oh no. You and that is definitely what has to happen. The other thing though on Airbnb, since I am a little bit more bullish on them than Stuart is.
I love Airbnb. Don't get me wrong. That's not my issue. My
no. But they are not going to erase hotels.
Who's obsessed with that being their Damocles sword. It's just ridiculous.
Well, no. But the hotel industry, when you're sitting there with brands like Sheraton's or Westin's or Renaissance, things that need to be positioned, better. And you're sitting there with, the industry wide for hotels net promoter score is about 37 or something like that. Not that great, right? So, you've got to take a look at it. But the head of Airbnb, this stuff now, at least for this particular area, is Greg Greeley, who was responsible for starting Amazon Prime. Now, I don't know if he can, work the same magic sort of thing, but they got some really smart people there doing, being patient too,
about ignoring Airbnb, and that say I would never ignore them past the point of being a competitor in market for the time that they're competing with you.
Give them the same attention you give to the other brand in town. Don't give them more than that.
Right.
Don't give them more than that for that. Hey, just as a really wild thing, did you see that Sabre's now offering to be able to put their clients into Google Hotel Finder as a free service?
Didn't
Are
see
they
that.
going to manage their budgets for them for free as well, or there's it?
Supposedly, you're only going to pay a Google commission, and that's it. That's it's like what?
Yeah. You can do that with
when anything's free. That means
there's
you're
always
the
a cost,
product.
right? They want to probably manage your paid ads and run the actual advertising. Now that you can do it through Google Ads Manager, you can.
Right.
I don't know if you guys have played around with that, but it's been a little rocky.
It's rocky, but we're still doing it from the third party perspective on the meta search stuff. We haven't, we don't have a Willy Wonka ticket yet.
By the way, I don't know if you guys have paid attention today, but the New York Stock Exchange is having a bit of a bad day. led by Apple.
Really? Did that have anything to do with China hitting back with 10% tariffs there? Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
that would do it.
Apple is down almost 4% on the day. That's a lot of money.
Which Apple is primed for a big decline, right? The
Yes.
love and sentiment, the blind love that they had as a brand is diminishing by the day. And I don't know
Yeah,
if
but
any of
their
you guys have
actual-
experienced any of their new
Their
laptop line.
valuation,
It,
but their valuation is like so depressed already.
Mhm.
Like, so I mean, when you're talking about
Yeah.
that they're due for a
but
decline,
it was
I mean, here's the
inflated
thing.
beyond belief, right? Back in 5 years ago. It was
Yeah, but
stupidly
it
overvalued.
turned the other direction years ago. That correction has already been baked in. Apple themselves,
Well,
like if you
I'll
look
just take
at
it from a cons-
how they trade on the market versus any of their comps, they are the lowest multiple of all their comps. Like,
Yeah.
hands
I'll
down.
just hear from a
And part
consumer
of the
perspective
problem
of
is
it.
they're not understood anymore by Wall Street because Wall Street only understands and values one thing: growth potential. How do you have
Yeah.
growth potential when the majority of the world is your customer?
Right.
Where do you go?
Look,
Yeah,
there- a
they
couple
need
things.
a
Like
they
this-
need a
this year-
new product, and that's a
Yeah,
tough,
this
tough
year I should be
situation.
due for a new iPhone because I bought the 10 when it first came out 2 years ago. So usually every 2
I
years I
agree.
grab a phone, and this year's not worth it. There's nothing coming
Yeah.
out that's worth it for me.
I'm the same
I'm
way,
waiting
Rob.
for 5G to pull in next year. I'm not going to buy beforehand. And
Yeah,
most of
I've
Yeah.
religiously
I
done
agree.
the same thing every year. Every 1 or 2 years, they've gotten the new iPhone, and this will be the first year.
But to be
Yeah,
Every-
fair,
like,
I'm
oh,
also
it's not
going to
worth it.
say
There's
though,
not- there's
I'm going to
nothing
say this: the battery's holding up better on the 10 than any previous iPhone I've
sure.
ever had. That's actually the other problem
Yeah.
is I don't need to switch.
Yeah,
No.
because now they're
Yeah.
being ethical and not slowing down your.
Yeah,
phone.
yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
But
I
every-
don't know. Have any of
but
you
that's
got
the
a new,
power of the
have you got
brand.
a laptop in the last 2 years from Apple?
Yeah, I got one last year.
Is your
I
battery
resisted it
terrible?
forever. No.
Everyone here that's got. Do you have one with the buttons, the touch at the top of
The bar.
The bar. Do you have one of those?
Yep.
Everyone that's got one in our office, we got 5 people now, and every one of them cusses about it every day because the battery
Really?
life is garbage. Yep.
mine.
I think it's because you're just a bunch of fueligans.
Well, we're working so hard for our clients that we're.
That's
just
right. You're
maxing out
burning batteries,
CPUs.
baby.
You know what, Stuart?
Do you know what my
Let them-
problem with those
Stuart-
laptops are though, and why I resisted it for so long? I had a 2012 MacBook Pro, which had an HDMI port in it.
Yeah, dude, dongles everywhere, man. You can't plug into
Dongles.
anything.
I have a late 2015, and it's still fine. I mean, the fan's been blown a lot more than recently, but that's because I smoke it for doing the videos. But but yeah, my normal life cycle of owning a Mac laptop is usually 5 or 6 years before I swap.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for next.
I held
gen,
out
because every
way
time-
longer than my normal because I was just resisting having to get freaking USB-C ports. I can't even plug my iPhone into my MacBook Pro anymore.
That's
Like-
just, I know.
Oh no, you can. You can get a $20 dongle that allows you to do.
Right, and I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. I don't
Yeah.
wanna
From
do
Apple,
that.
because all the other stuff doesn't.
Yeah, I'll
work.
probably fry your.
To be
motherboard.
fair, my one of my technology guys here comes to me and is like, "Hey, do you have an extra power for one of the new MacBooks?" I'm like, "No, why?" He's like, "Well, because we just plugged one in and it sparked." And I said, "Well, that's a problem." Like,
No, it's a feature.
you better. I said, "You
Well,
better
see,
go down. You better
it's
go
a
down to
lightning
the Apple
bolt
store
connection.
and tell them there's a problem with it." And he goes, "Well, it's because we didn't buy an Apple one." I said, "Well, that's why it sparked."
Yeah.
That's right. That's an Apple feature. It sparks. Yeah. That's
Lightning
right.
cable.
Now, Stuart,
Creativity.
on the battery life, there is a secret. I know Fuel is very strict on its cost controls,
Yeah.
but if you let your staff actually plug in at the office and not charge their
Only
Yeah.
at
their
home.
laptops at home and then bring it in so they
Yeah,
aren't.
that's
And plus, if you give
ludicrous.
them a little bit more light in the office, they don't. Maybe they can adjust the screen
and-
brightness or something like
with-
that.
And the term having a stand-up desk is not a 2x4 across some milk crates. Okay.
Oh, you guys.
But hey, but they've got.
But see,
they've
this
got
is where you
the
have it all
buffet.
wrong. You think Stuart would go out and buy 2x4s? No, it's all a
Oh.
bunch of interns from the local
That's right.
from the local trade
Laying on-
school,
yeah.
all
Yep.
with laptops on their back so the Fueligans can type.
That's
Oh,
right.
that's what it
Yeah.
is.
You okay down there, Timmy? Yeah. he's good. Yeah.
Yep. That's
All right. since we're at well, we're coming up on an hour and a half, but
We have covered one topic, so
we have one topic.
I have one thing to say. This weekend makes everything all better because college football is back.
Oh,
Is it-
I thought it was because I was going to
next
go see
weekend, I thought, right?
Hart, Joan Jett, and Elle
Nope.
King tonight.
Saturday
Oh,
in Orlando is the kickoff of
Come on.
college football.
Come on,
It's
not real
the-
football.
it's
Oh, wow.
criminals versus criminals, UF versus Miami.
Yeah.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see, is the overrated Florida school better than the underrated Florida school?
Meanwhile, back in hospitality.
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
How can you guys not care? I don't know how we can
I
have so
care.
much in
I
common.
care, but college football doesn't start till next weekend when Gamecocks take on UNC. So,
A game they'll finally win.
maybe we
I think-
we're doing okay the last few years.
No, I'm saying you, the Gamecocks, will win.
Yeah, we should. I would hope.
All right. So
And with that,
Sorry,
I gotta see those fun pictures on some of this stuff, Robert. What
Sorry.
were some of the things
Oh,
you were thinking about? There
well,
was one
actually,
about
I think
the identifier
one-
that I know you want to talk about.
One other stat was some interesting Focusrite things. Although an outstanding article on personalization came out on Focusrite Day, but you've got to be an Innovation Edition subscriber. So get your subscriptions up, and you'll be able to read my articles.
Hey, did you contribute?
Another way
Can't
they
you
make
just
money.
get Free ones being your friend. What's up with that?
No.
Man, didn't even
are they
think
doing
about
it like Business Insider style, where like it's actually there, it's just gated till you log in? Because if so, I'll give you the name of
no,
a
it's
service that
for-
will just strip the article.
No, for years it's been a subscription. They have a variety of tiered
Yeah, just turn on
subscriptions.
JavaScript. You'll be good.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. Doesn't work that way. It's you can't get there from here, sort of thing, unless you're fully.
Some say
fully
they
signed
focus
in.
right.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought the article that was showing
You
that
can't talk
the,
about articles that our audience can't read. I'm sorry.
No, I posted the one from the global online bookings are growing, twice as fast as the overall market. So things are shifting more, more and more online, which isn't like a
people
G,
going online to book. Shock
which
horror.
isn't like that much of a gee whiz. But when you really start looking at some of the some of the stats of where things are going, it's
And those damn millennials, they're going to be the end of the phone call. I tell you.
oh, well, that was
But
another
see, that's where you're
article.
wrong. Oh.
Wait,
Sorry, go ahead.
that's where he's
yeah,
wrong about.
sorry, my bad. It's the Generation Z. That's who's going to be the death of the phone calls. My bad.
I thought there was a very interesting article on what
He's
makes
just moving
millennial
right
and Gen
past
Z travelers, what makes millennial and Gen Z travelers different from India and China, so different from Western peers. There were some really, really interesting stats on
I
You
think that was
mean
a grain of
people
salt,
from
though,
different
on some of
cultural
those.
backgrounds
that's what I was
are
gonna say.
different?
Yeah, and
I'm
younger
sorry. I
people.
read into those.
Well,
I was
they-
reading the examples was being a little soft.
You mean
They are.
segmentation is something we should pay attention to, that not everyone is the same based on
Wait,
a single
we're not
measurement
homogenous.
metric?
well, I wouldn't go
Human
that
race?
far, Ed.
What?
So, no, it's still one size fits all, pretty
Okay.
much.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
Good. Thank God. I was being worried you were talking crazy talk.
As
But
a shameless plug for the Fuel Hotel Marketing Podcast, we're actually recording an episode this afternoon on an article from WordStream about the things you need to consider when marketing to Generation Z. But we're going to kind of pile that in with millennials and all the nonsense that is talked about millennials.
But can you also
Generation
separate
Z.
out the stuff that's going to be the same for every generation that's that age?
Oh, believe me, listen to the show. You will enjoy it. There are.
But by the way, where I was saying you were wrong on
Yeah.
saying that the phone call is going to die is that is patently it's wrong, because nothing dies in this industry.
That's true. So little
If you do
prelude.
things really badly on your website, they've got to call you.
That's true. We have quotes from Aristotle that proves that
Ooh.
younger generations being the way they are is not something new. So there.
No,
Ah.
it has
We have
something to
quotes
do
on
with
Aristotle talking
being
about
young.
mobile
Yeah,
utilization.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's Aristotle's take on millennials. We have some of that. So,
Millennials,
yeah.
whole mobile, blockchain, VR. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
No, but I did look at the stats as being very people say, to Ed's point, from that perspective of time of life, what they think that they want versus what they end up doing are completely two different perspective values.
Yeah, because you gotta wait till someone hits the point that life just punches them in the gut and resets them on how things really work.
Right. And they have kids and a mortgage and a spouse and
right.
real responsibility.
When they all of a sudden have stuff that requires them to think about, oh man, how am I going to take care of the responsibilities that I now have? It's amazing how much they want to stop, this whole nonsense of like, everything should be free and we should all just be able to go wherever we want to and love each other. No.
Ed,
I was in my
you did not have a good sleep.
You guys didn't want to talk about college football.
But it is true. I think surveying people what they're in their 20s, what they're going to do in their 30s, is a little bit like saying, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And
I don't even know what I'm going to have for dinner.
So. Yeah,
You'll have what
now
your wife tells you.
yeah.
Ooh,
So
dang. I hope your wife doesn't hear that.
No, I cook in our family, so. But
Yeah.
she usually picks. She does usually say, "I want this tonight," and I end up cooking it. So
yeah, I do the same
that
thing.
works. Happy marriage.
That's right.
So I thought, Robert, you wanted to hit the digital ID thing, since I figured that this is a bit of a soapbox for you in some ways.
Well, no, this is the digital ID on the consumer side, which
Right, but
has some very, I think, interesting. This whole trade-off of privacy versus security and convenience, kind of. I think it's actually probably going to be kind of kind of a triangle here. Is going to be very interesting to see how all of this works. Do any of you guys have Clear? Do you guys use Clear?
I
for
canceled
flying?
it. It stopped being useful in Orlando, which was the only reason I had it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why would they change the location or?
Yeah,
or-
basically TSA pre-check is far better. And
Yeah.
Clear for TSA pre-check in Orlando provides zero value.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they've
So-
cleaned up the TSA pre-check lines. So
They're 3-to-1 now. 3 pre-check
Wait.
lines to 1 standard line in Orlando.
oh, really? Wow. Because they've got a revenue stream now. Got that $85 for 5 years.
It's amazing how that works.
Yep. Oh, that's interesting. No, I've been
I was
using.
an early and long-time user of Clear,
Right.
mainly because it made it to where you could actually just consistently show up at the same time to Orlando and actually make your flight. Whereas without something like that, you show up to Orlando 3 hours early, you still may miss your flight, or you may
Yeah.
literally be there 3 hours too early. And
Yeah.
there's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
Right. Seattle was horrible with that because of the cruise ships. I mean, it just and Orlando yes, it's massive, it's everything, but then you've got all sorts of dimensions. I know certainly Fort
Its
Lauderdale gets it.
capacity is the problem
Yeah.
too. I mean, we're at like 90% of the airport's capacity.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, which is just rough. But
does
anyway,
Orlando have central
that
security
experience-
like Atlanta, Ed?
They have two different. They have A side security, B side security, and that's it. So that goes to all the gates are split up to 2 security lines, basically.
yeah.
Now,
Okay.
when I say lines, it's still higher volume than any other airport you go to for the number of like lines you could go into.
Yeah.
But I mean, the bottom line is right now, like what was Florida, 120 million total visitors last year, and like 70 something million of them were Orlando.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, for this ID, you kind of go, well, if you can get the combined Clear plus TSA pre-check experience for going to your hotels, getting all that sort of stuff is great.
Yeah,
But-
and you can totally trust that the private industry won't at all do anything negative or
Right.
creepy with that.
Yeah, and
Of
that's
course.
going
Talking
to
to
be
you,
the
I'm talking to you, Hyper.
yeah. Hyper. Marriott didn't get a lot of fallout from that. Interesting.
I am
They
so
were-
shocked.
Yeah,
But I'm wondering
those-
if part of it's like there was another article out that some Irish authority, Stuart, from where you're from, is looking into potential GDPR violations that
Yeah.
that Hyper and by way of Hyper Marriott,
Oh,
potentially did. So this could have a really big stick. This could be the marquee GDPR issue.
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, with
Yeah,
Marriott,
nobody wants to
we
be
say
that
with the
poster child.
Starwood data breach too. People were saying the same thing. So,
I mean,
Yeah, but this one happened while GDPR was in effect. The Starwood data breach was before GDPR came into effect.
Yeah.
that's true.
but
yes.
it's funny, with the whole hyper thing and stuff like this. I used to do something similar with a platform that got swallowed, which was Geophedia. I actually use this in presentation when I talk about an airport in Canada that was notorious for delays and cancellations during weather sequence. And there was a hotel we opened up that was an airport hotel, and so I fenced the airport and did 25 different keyword triggers on
But
delayed.
that's not similar. What Hyper did
No, it
that
wasn't.
was
But I'm
wrong
saying
is they were
Hyper took it to a whole new level.
scraping public data
Right.
and then building behavioral profiles on people and
Right. They took it to a
commercializing.
whole
That's
nother level.
spying. Like
Right.
there was another
Yeah.
article out that the FBI had actually recently put out a request for proposal for the same idea. The FBI wants to do that to
Right.
build profiles on people as a
Like I
dragnet.
said, they took it to a
Well,
whole
there's some
nother level.
unemployed people right now.
There's
that could go up
geofencing,
there.
and then there's the hyper level, which literally is probably the name
Yeah.
fits for them, where they're actually beginning to probe. Because there's other softwares out there like Gravy and things. The software is called Gravy, which will demographically profile you based on proximity, and then target you based on your
Yes.
interest in what you're trying to
And
sell.
where you get that data is now going to matter. And
Yeah.
Hyper, the big thing that they're going to get really dinged on was they can't lean on it's public data because, by the way, the thing they were scraping and storing were Instagram stories, which are supposed to disappear,
You're supposed to, yeah,
Right.
but they were storing them permanently.
right.
Yeah.
It's one thing to go over because there was a platform Banjo I told you about where it allowed you to go over and see the publicly posted social geographically fenced areas, and even they've taken that down. Their app has stopped working finally.
Yes,
Where-
because Facebook has put all their marketing partners on notice that if you're scraping, and they went through
Yeah.
real definition of
different
all the
definitions.
different things that could be
Yeah.
considered as scraping, that's a violation of their platform.
So scraping data as somebody goes through an e-com funnel and then using it to retarget them would be a bad thing, right? Just saying.
Unless it's disclosed.
Yeah, actually, I mean, here's the thing though. You do have to ask yourself a question. What is expected in the consumer experience? It is not expected that something you put out in the world and is supposed to disappear is stored. It's not
Right.
expected that your voice controlled device is not only recording everything you say, but transcribing it to text data to be stored. These are the problems in a lot of the new technology on what's happening is there is always someone who is doing something evil with this
Right.
stuff. And you can say all you want and spin PR all you want. Spying on people
Mhm.
is unethical
Mhm.
and should be illegal and should
But that's
be.
your point.
By the
It's
way-
it's evil, but not illegal, and
Right,
that's
but the reason I bring it up
that's the
in
problem
this
because they're
show
going. We aren't
is
breaking.
if
We
you're a
aren't breaking any
marketer who
laws.
does at all care about the relationship between you and your customer, don't do shit that's evil.
Oh, and just to
Ooh.
speak out for one
Yeah,
thing,
but-
if you ever want a good reason to do schema correctly, the recent news about voice activation phone calling is your prime example. If you don't want people to hijack contacting you by somebody else being able to identify a fake phone number for you, get your schema right. Because I mean, you can marvel at its brilliance, but you also get mad as hell that somebody thought of doing that, where they're just taking and realizing that you haven't done it for yourself, so they create a
Right.
fake number for you and hijack your business. These people that do the dash domains that try to act like you to book rooms for them and get affiliate pricing. I imagine they're probably going to jump on this too, where they're just going to realize that your hotel isn't optimized for their own phone number connectivities. They're going to hijack the ability to be shown up for that, for voice activation calling, and they're going to act like you and book a room for you and get an affiliate price.
Now, wait a second. Would that happen for bidding on someone else's keywords? Would that be a similar analogy?
As we slide down the slope of happiness.
Pretty similar concept, I think. You go, hey, it's the same
Absolutely.
price. It's here. It's this. We got this. You can do. Hey, we're going to give you 10% off, or
You said
basically
it's
buy it
evil,
from the
not
commission.
illegal, and it is
Yeah.
so true. And Stuart, I think that I did get the design for you. You know, the little squares for the affiliate for the attribution string. Just have like 4 or 5 little squares, but have a little hand pulling one out and another hand pulling one in with a different logo on it.
Anyone's logo in particular you're thinking of?
Oh, of course. I'll send you a copy of it. One high res.
You guys are such teasers.
That is real.
That is real.
Yeah.
Hey, we may
It's
not
an
be
inside
organized, but we
joke,
have fun.
Once you guys get the detail on that, I would be delighted to write something and get
I'm
it
still
on
I'm
waiting on
actually
the
getting, I'm getting a list.
Lauren, I'm waiting on the instructions from you on
Yes,
how
I
the
already
clients
sent
are
the email out.
identified.
My guy's going to get back with me about giving me a little step by step to get back to you with.
Because I have a client that is not at all related to Lauren that has the right setup for us to be able to understand if that's really happening.
So
and
I'll
if
get
that's
you
happening,
I sent the email
I
from
would
yesterday.
be happy to swat
Could we become
it down.
like the anonymous of the hotel industry?
Ooh, we got to come up with a mask.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that we just broke the first rule though. You're not meant to tell people who.
Oh.
you are.
Yeah, that's why we can't be.
Seeing
Hey,
as none of
this
us
is a
can
show,
keep it
as Ed
secret.
says, who's watching, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah. The
All
first rule of Fight Club is not tell everyone about Fight Club.
Fight Club,
That's
right?
the problem.
Hey, all right. So with the fact that we already passed an hour and a half for it, and I don't know what everyone's time schedule is for it, is there any articles that we are missing that we would make sure we want to hit, since we kind of went off reservation on the topics anyway?
I threw in the gratuitous blockchain one just for Ed. It's not any. It's just horrible.
Was it anything about actual?
It's actually Travelport,
valuable usage of blockchain?
Travelport, BCD, and Hyatt are testing it for hotel commission settlement. And it's just, it's not.
Good
not
luck.
good.
Stephen.
There
Right.
is so much crap now flying around the payment space, especially in travel and hospitality. Where I was on an HTNG conference, and they had a work group on payment, and they were. I think we talked about this last week. They were introducing a payments manager similar to a channel manager, and that's not going to work. But there's so many groups trying to get in here and get their little chunk of the pot. Another mouth to feed. It's ugly.
And to
So-
be fair, payments is still a major friction point in the
It
industry.
is.
It really
Yeah.
is. But there's not
Unless
much
you're
fuel.
enough. Well, we're trying to fix it, but I think we've made some inroads, but I think there's still a long way to go. But I think
But all this stuff is winding up with payment cards, and yes, they're using
Yeah.
blockchain and
they're
stuff like that.
creating more friction.
There's a whole pile of
friction
other
exists.
crap around it where you really look at something like an ACH or something. You look at how, and even though, yes, you say it losing something like a Venmo or something, how easily that works, right? I mean, that Venmo approach is just.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
It is amazing.
peer-to-peer payments has been solved. I
Right.
mean, it really is very frictionless now. Now, it's not without its troubles, right? There's no recourse and chargebacks and things with something like Venmo. You see issues where people send payments to the wrong person and then they're literally screwed. They're like,
But here's
for-
my other
but for
question: like,
commission
what would be the
payments between
difference?
trusted partners,
right.
Yeah,
that's
but
a whole different thing.
What would be the difference? Like, well, how's this different than WorldPay?
Which
Anyone?
Venmo?
No, the BCD
the-
Hyatt blockchain. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah, I
less-
don't.
It's less adopted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, there's
it's
so
going to
many.
be more expensive to deploy,
Yeah.
and the infrastructure of it will be a nightmare. So
Yeah.
But if
it'll be
these-
cheaper.
Yeah, the
Like
bottom
I
line
said,
comes to if these
crazy.
are identified, authenticated B2B business partners on commissions, it's more like a TransferWise type thing, right? How do you get the fat and the expense out of these transactions?
By
right?
adding really convoluted infrastructure
Yeah.
is always the answer. So
Exactly.
it's like, this is a perfect thing.
Well, and it's a private blockchain. It's not a public, and so all of a sudden,
So even
once you
better.
start getting the private. Did you guys see the announcement of the Satoshi Nakamoto The founder of Bitcoin, revealing him, it was just a complete farce. I mean, the guy.
Did he actually reveal who it was?
Well, yeah, and then of course the way you would reveal that is say, "I'm the guy, and here I'm going to sell a few of my coins." There it is. You're done. He goes, "Oh no, he lost the hard drive with whatever it is, $90 billion or something like that." You're like, bullshit.
So this guy,
I kind of feel like anyone with a brain saw that coming.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of skepticism coming up, and there wasn't a lot of articles about it and things like that. Like, I think people.
Well, because of course not, because then you have to print
why would you? Why, if you had that much? Why, if you had that much wealth, would you want to expose it to, which is completely hidden from everybody in any form of taxation? Why would they come out and go, "Oh yeah, it's," and
it's the most elaborate Ponzi scheme, except none of the victims are going to come forward because they're all criminals.
So I don't know. I mean, really interesting concept, but nobody knows who the guy is, where the stuff is, and it's all just kind of sitting there. And even if it goes to hell, even if it goes to hell, the guy's still got a lot of assets right there. I think it's a lot of money. So I don't know.
So, just in quick recaps to some things, TripAdvisor, once again, in their super smart way of advertising themselves and being cutting edge in their ability to be ahead of everybody else, is dropping the little wisey owl.
Which is great because it was always creepy. The little owl.
That's what the article
did anybody
said,
like?
Right, hold on. That's what the article said. But then when you watch the video, that is evidence of them dropping it. The owl's at the bottom right of the entire video.
Oh no, it's not the logo. It's the kind of animated CG bathrobed owl.
Yeah, I don't know.
So when will this happen to the sleazy Trivago guy?
That's the sleazy Trivago guy.
The one that says he got the last room in the hotel while getting arrested for whatever it was he got arrested for.
Still doing Trivago commercials. It blew me away.
Yeah. Apparently he tests well, I guess. I don't know. They look
People
at it with him versus
the
with him.
Creepy uncle who's likely to give you psychological damage at a young age.
Apparently that it harkens them back to their youth or something. I don't know.
Uncle Bob.
Show me where the Trivago guy touched you.
So back to TripAdvisor. So
that's a great T-shirt, Ed.
That would be a great T-shirt.
All right, so to me, right, all I was seeing with TripAdvisor was stop. It's
brand awareness of Trivago would skyrocket. That one hits on all cylinders.
I'm trying to change the subject. You're not helping me now.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, TripAdvisor losing the owl is like the 27,000th thing you need to focus on about TripAdvisor right now. They're bigger problems.
Actually, I think this was them who put out the PR as a attempt to get you to not pay attention to all the evil crap they're doing.
Well, and not just the evil stuff they're doing, which it's also about just the poor strategy they have right now, where they're losing focus on what made them good in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
I think the score is Wall Street 1 in a weird way. TripAdvisor, well, actually, Wall Street
Travelers
8.
Travelers
TripAdvisor 0,
and hotels -700.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah,
Lauren,
you go to their homepage right now, and it's really ridiculous. It's absolutely nuts. It goes, mine goes, where to with all this stuff, and then
but now they're going to have a loyalty program.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's just
with
insane.
The 0 people that are going to continue to use TripAdvisor because it provides less value than it's ever provided before.
But wait, here's what I've got recommended for you: most romantic destinations: Paris, Puerto Vallarta, and Venice. And it was like, okay, I'm not planning to go to any of those places. Yeah. Top restaurants in Galveston. And that's because my daughter's going to Galveston, and I looked up the hotel to kind of answer a question for her or something. Cities with ancient history: Jerusalem, Dubrovnik, and Cartagena. And you're like, okay.
It's not
Most
actually,
photographed
I mean,
places in
personalization is
Galveston.
misused.
Yeah, it's
The
crazy.
fact that they understand that you care about knowing way too much about mundane things is actually pretty
Exactly.
It's hyper targeted. Yeah.
Hyper target. But yeah, it
really
just makes no sense. There's no theme. It's just crap.
Yeah, because they got
wanna-
some fancy algorithm that had no strategy put behind it. Back to Ed's point at the beginning, they got some magical algorithm and they just deploy it, and they're not really looking at
because they don't care.
impact it's having.
Right.
Because they're focused on the wrong things. They're not focused on
Yeah.
improving the guest experience. On
Yeah.
this.
I want to ask Stuart while I still have him about the Google's Webmaster Tools about the AMP improvements with images.
Oh,
Since
yeah. I
RTE.
thought that would be a big one you guys would pull out of here. That's
All right. So, what percentage of people on Google search use the image tab at the top? So I think Tim talked about it last week.
I use it all the time, but that's
I
Yeah,
do.
I use it because
I
it's
do.
weird. We're
For
going to be an
certain things.
unfair sample.
Certain categories, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
You
memes.
probably don't use it when you're shopping for hotels,
Nope, I use it for
Right.
memes.
right?
That's how I got Robert the meme for his
Right.
HSMAI
that's
presentation.
right.
I use it
to
What else
look
do I
at
use?
pictures of famous people that you want to know who they are, stuff
No.
like
I
that.
use it to rip off logos and images of places and stuff.
right.
I use
So
to create-
anyway, so my point being, you don't
Copyright
use it to shop.
infringement?
You don't use it
basically,
to
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
see if there's
But
an
I would not
owl
use it
in
to
a
shop.
commercial.
But don't you understand? This is our industry's reaction to anything that's new. It's
Right.
how do we put a book now button on it?
Right. Yeah. So very clearly, and I would consider myself an expert at digital marketing. Whether you guys do or not, I would consider myself one. Don't waste your time with AMP at this point. If you haven't already got your ducks in a row with your email strategy, your social strategy, your paid advertising strategy, your website, your booking engine, mobile, all this stuff, get all that done first. And when I say mobile, a responsive website and a responsive booking engine.
Mobile
Once you've
first.
done all that, you've got all that perfect, then think about AMP. But until that point, don't worry about it. And just because now you can swipe up on an image search doesn't mean you need to jump back on AMP. This isn't the rebirth of AMP at all.
This isn't the part of AMP that I think is interesting. The AMP and email is what I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, clean
But
the
all the
code
stuff
in
is
email
keeping you in the
interesting
Google
in general.
environment, guys. Yeah.
Well, where
all
else are
this
you gonna
stuff.
go?
I know. It's all there.
Google is the internet. Unless I'm
I
buying
mean,
products, I'm gonna go
this
there.
is
If
Yeah,
they
you-
somehow
you
could
are-
figure out how to replace Tim Peters' blog, we're all done.
yep.
They
that's
will
it.
officially move to the
Uh,
owner of all content on the
That's
internet.
the last
Wait a
citadel.
second.
This is the last light.
Maybe that's where Tim is today. He's probably negotiating with Google.
He did say he
Probably
was
so.
going to see Old Dominion, but maybe
Yeah.
Old Dominion is code
Code.
for Google.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he's negotiating the merger between Google and Amazon, so Google's On will finally be a thing, like it was predicted
Google's
in those
On,
videos
yes.
years and years ago.
And then we will finally be able to put book
Tim's
now
website,
buttons
that
on
little
Amazon.
spark of sand from
Yeah.
for the never-ending story. I think at the very end.
So wait, so what's Google sell? What's Google sell to take the heat off of getting broken up by the government?
That they
YouTube?
would have to break up Amazon, they'd have to break up Facebook.
Oh no. Well, no,
break-
that's going
No,
to
they,
start. I
they
mean,
don't
there's no
have to
question
sell anything. They just have to pay the all the governmental officials enough money, and it won't happen.
Right, and they have enough, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not going
Yeah.
to happen.
Just pay up a few
You
congressmen.
don't think they're going to go?
Get past this presidential election without it happening, and it will be 4 years before it's
But
talked.
the burden is going to be on someone having to prove that it's in somehow negatively impacting consumers in this country. You know,
Which is
Europe's different. They will probably get more split out there,
Yeah.
but they're not going to be able to do that in this country.
See, I would think they would go and proactively spin off something like YouTube or something like that, which is kind of problematic for
Well,
them.
but technically,
But-
that's under Alphabet, right?
Yeah,
not
it's
under
not-
Google anymore. It's already
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, so they may do something like that, and then I think that what they want to do is put all the heat on Facebook, where Zuckerberg is pulling all the stuff. I mean, Instagram by Facebook and WhatsApp by Facebook. It's
Right.
like, eesh.
yeah. And how
But,
they've spun out Messenger to try to be its own platform. I mean, you,
Yeah.
you saw the Mary Meeker report, right, where you were looking at
Yeah.
social hours spent in
Oh, yeah.
4 of the top 6 were Facebook-owned properties, you know?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's Instagram by Facebook, Messenger by
Facebook,
Facebook.
yeah.
Change the
They're
names
all-
officially. Yeah.
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 But I mean, Zuckerberg's trying to put everything together on the back end. So when they come and say you've got to divest, he goes, "We can't. You'll break the whole thing."
Your problem, not mine. That's what they were saying.
Well, that's going to be that is the strategic game he's going to play with the government, right?
Well, he could
go-
just threaten to sell
you know
Facebook
what?
to Google.
He doesn't care about governments because now they've got Libra. They're going to make. Have you
They're
seen how
bigger.
much they're going to make on interest alone on
Oh my God!
on
Yeah.
Libra? I mean, they're
Yeah.
going to be bigger than every nation in the world.
They've got
I'm
2.7
sad
billion
that my
people on the
Apple
planet.
titanium card stains with leather, by the way. You know, that's just not cool.
Oh. Wait, it stains the leather, or the leather stains the card?
The leather stains the card. I mean, come on.
Yes,
you know,
because
damn it.
that happens to titanium. Like, there are reasons things aren't made out of certain things.
I went to go get a card and I stopped myself. I'm like, you know what? No.
Why?
I'm
Oh,
going
my
to.
daughter
He's a nerd.
wants
He
the
likes
card.
What stopped me was I have a credit freeze on all of my stuff because I refuse to go over and have things unlocked. So
and
everything's
you and now you have to pay to unlock it.
no. I can.
The
I just
grace
have
period's
off.
over.
I mean, it's all controllable. But I went to go do it. I'm like, wait a minute, I got all my credit stuff locked. I'm not going to go through. It was just I was going to do it real quick, and I'm like, nope, I don't. I'll do it when I have the time. But when
Lauren's
I
got
started,
an app Sumo thing that controls all that.
it just seems absurd to me. It's like, really, how well thought out was this? And like, and you put it in a wallet, it stains. You put it by anything, it's going to scratch. In a pocket with keys, it's like,
I think the
Well, there's a reason you don't make
situation-
cards out of diamond, even though it's scratch resistant. It is brittle.
mhm.
Like, there's a reason you can't just make bridges out of concrete without steel reinforcement. Materials are meant
Yeah.
for certain things.
Oh, I've got my American Express went heavy to all these metal cards and everything like
Yeah, but they're
that.
stainless steel.
No, mine's scratched. I've got a big old scratch because I think somebody's whatever the little
One of
slide.
your
slider in the
diamonds
card
fell on it.
Yeah, they had some diamonds or something, but it's scratched up and stuff. It's just not.
It does create the analogy of why, when you step into a business or brought into a new position within a company, you pause, listen, learn. There's a reason why things are done the way they're done.
You change everything.
Yeah, just blow it up, Lauren. What are you talking about?
Blow
You-
it up.
Create a
old-
ton
yeah,
of positive press on how you're recreating it, and then you take a higher job somewhere else.
Oh,
Yeah,
like a few
you
people I
stay
know that
long
just
enough
jump into the
to
price.
get the project to a certain point, but not long enough that you have to see the ramifications of the shitstorm
That's right.
created. Yeah,
The
Right,
sad
right.
part is I have people's names and faces popping in my head as you're saying
We're
all
all
this.
talking about the same people.
Where you're like, man, you just jumped for a higher salary, and as soon as you went over and started stuff, off to the next higher salary. Or worse yet, here's a project, now I'll leave you alone with the poop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad days indeed. Now, hey, to set up the rut row, it's not really a rut row in the sense of a funny rut row. It's a rut row in the
Man.
sense it's a reality.
It is a legit rut row.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a reality of our world rut row in that sense,
yeah.
because it is an unfortunate reality to it, which is, I'll post it up there, but to go, Mr. Robert, it's about a cook that wasn't very happy working at a hotel.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, is basically there was a cook at a Marriott in Long Beach who had a big arsenal of stuff and was basically planning on taking out a bunch of people, going down in a blaze of glory sort of thing, right? And and that is going to be a tremendously challenging thing for hotels to deal with. I hate to say, but the whole security aspect, boy, you certainly look at the Middle East and what happened with the bombings in Mumbai and things like that.
since
Hotels
Tim's not
can be
here, since Tim's not here,
an ugly target.
we can talk about the political aspect of this, which is why is it people are crazier now than ever? I mean,
Yeah, it's all mental health.
Okay, I
It's
think
all
they have more
mental health.
latitude.
Has nothing to do with it. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's not all mental
But again,
health. It is the blatant manipulation that happens to people so much that I think it drives people to extreme craziness. The fact that no matter
Well,
where
let me
you
ask you
turn,
this:
you
if
now
you
have
were in
to
the middle of
question.
nowhere, hold on.
Go
No,
ahead.
if
Yeah,
you're in the
what's
middle of
real?
nowhere and there's a stop sign at a crossroads, okay? If you're in the middle of nowhere and there's a stop sign at the crossroads and you see absolutely nobody around the horizon, do you still stop at the stop sign?
Yes.
At a stop sign, I will
Yeah,
stop
I
at the
would.
stop sign.
Yes.
We have a really bad stoplight here
Why?
that they
Why do
didn't
we
put
do
on
that?
flashing
No.
red on a closed road,
Why
and
do
I
you
go
do
through it,
that?
and nobody else does.
So you don't die.
Why do we do that?
So you don't die.
Right. But to your point of what you're saying, I'm making your point is that the idea of it is that we stop at a stop sign, not because there's a police officer sitting next to it that we're going to get a ticket because we didn't, not because a car is flying through or going through the other direction. We do that because we realize out of a sense of civility that if we follow guidelines, we keep each other safe
Self-preservation.
as well. What is happening is breaking down that civility. Now, it's not just all mental health. It's the civility of society that says, I'm so mad and it's such a latitude of opportunity. I'm going to express my anger or whatever. This goes to a management question, and I'm bringing this to hospitality. I want to bring it to hospitality. Good managers do not allow bad circumstances to inflate. I'm not saying that
Ooh.
good managers can stop everything,
That's a
but
great
good,
saying.
dedicated managers, engaged
I like that
management.
saying.
hmm
Sorry.
No, which one's saying? What's saying?
That good managers don't allow bad situations to inflate.
Oh, thank you. But
I
the
thought
idea
that was
is
good.
that you communicate, you listen to your staff and your team, you engage your staff and team. It's not a checkbox that you say hi to the engineer as he walks by the hall every day when you're walking in the back hall. It's you're talking to him and you know his name, as bad as I am with names. Actually, I know all my team members. When you're on my team, you're on my team. When you're not on my team, I could care less. You know, seriously, that's a problem of mine. When I'm with
Dang.
people, when
I
I'm
hate to be a
with
customer of yours.
no, it's true. Honestly, I lose track of people that I used to love only because I'm not working with them anymore. It's a flaw of my personality character. When I'm on my same
It's
team,
because you're all in.
everything
There's
about
only so much Lauren available.
well, see, forgive me. But the idea of it is that when you're in your team, you talk to people, you listen to them beyond just the politeness. You listen to them, and good managers begin to sense when there's tension in departments or tensions between people, when there's problems that aren't getting resolved because they keep lasting and lasting, and you communicate with them to either let them know that it's getting fixed, that it's being addressed, or that it can't change. How can we change what can help you? That good management can help this process to a degree in hotels. I'm not saying that any GM of a large hotel can speak to every staff member every day, by far not. But their teams with the same thought process in their departments and communicate well can really help create the culture that people work within. And
Well, and that's how this got caught,
Well, you
that
can't.
stuff.
right? Like
Yeah.
a fellow
Somebody else
worker turn
Right.
the
Yeah.
person in. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, so
But
the
now
system
my
works
question
here.
is
Like
what-
this shouldn't be like this
Yeah,
isn't.
it
This
did
doesn't
work.
have to have
It's-
any
the
negative
scary thing is-
ramifications on
Yeah, the-
hotels. This should be like, hey, let's pick apart what went right here
Mm-hmm.
that this guy got caught, and
Yeah.
then how do you try to figure out to not get your brand's name, mired into it? Like that's the thing. Like poor Marriott and like this whole
Yeah.
thing. Marriott had zero to do with this person,
Right.
wanting to.
Well, the
remove
question is,
safety
what
of-
what was the human resources issue? There was a work-related human resources issue, which apparently, it's the classic going postal, right? And you guys probably aren't old enough to remember.
No,
There
we
used
know
to
that.
be the post office, right? People were going, were going and shooting people. But yeah, I would really be interested.
That
to know
was
what
the
was this a
Uber
layoff
for
or-
letters, right?
Yeah, exactly. The Uber for mail. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that issue was. If that was like a downturn, not getting enough hours, not getting the shift you want.
Who knows?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
The
It's more than that. It's, dude, like as a human species, we somehow have become just crazy unable to accept that there's more than complete anger as an option. Like there's there's layers of issues here, and it's not just mental health, which mental health is an issue. I also think it's just the pure fact that everywhere you turn today, things are trying to manipulate you. I think that has a big role in it. I think media has a huge role in it. Like we need to fix the media, make them go back to like having to label
Journalism.
opinion and go to journalism
Absolutely.
and let idiots like us give you points of view on
Totally
topics.
unqualified idiots like us. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
He does the truth.
Yeah.
What's it?
But that's the thing. Yeah, you can't have Fox News when the vast majority, the brand is news,
Right.
and the vast majority of what people watch is entertainment.
Right.
Right?
It's
I mean,
all
that's fundamentally what it is.
sensationalized and overbaked, and it's not just Fox News. It's CNN. It's
Oh no,
NBC.
it doesn't matter. No,
Like-
Fox started it.
Yeah, they did
Fox
start
started
it.
it and monetized
I'll
it.
give a great example that
Fox
I really.
started it, successfully monetized it, and then MSNBC countered it and said, "Well, gee, if they're doing it on that side, we'll go do it on this side."
You
'cause
go
there's money
right,
over
we're
there."
going left.
I tell
Right, and
I tell Renee- I tell
CNN
Renee-
kind of went, "Well, yeah, we can play this game too, because if we don't, nobody will watch us."
Right.
Right?
I
So-
tell Renee that this is an Al Roker effect for me. Al Roker used to be just a weatherman.
And then he's sensationalized it.
Here, there's this on NBC. Now it's there's 50 million people that are going to be under health advisor. The weather coming through the north.
The Jim Cantori effect.
Holy shit, dude! And then all of a sudden it stops.
Tell you,
and now-
man, if Jim Cantori's in your town, you better leave.
Yeah, it's like holy shit. It's a rainstorm. I understand, but awareness doesn't necessarily breed. Like just because I know it's going to happen, but the way it's presented, the stress that's presented, and we're on this roller coaster up and down all the time of stuff.
Just a pressure cooker.
But that's how local
Stuart,
news always was.
Stuart, you're
The
from
same
New
with if it
Zealand, which
bleeds, it
has
bleeds.
relatively
Right.
low crime. I mean, do you think we're on to something
Exactly.
here? Because, like, why is New Zealand not having the same issue?
Well, unfortunately, they recently had a major issue in New
Yeah,
Zealand.
they had tragedy too.
They did.
That's right.
I agree. I kind of agree with you. I don't think any of us are really qualified to have a proper opinion on this, but I
None
think
of us are.
I think there is a societal shift.
Being qualified doesn't mean you can't have an opinion.
Well, this is
It feels
but it's different, right?
it's what you feel. It's not
But
fact.
when we have an
Stuart.
opinion about hospitality and state it as a fact, the implications of that are people gaining or losing a few dollars. But in this
No,
case,
they're not. Actually,
No.
they're completely meaningless.
well,
and
exactly. I was being generous. But this, I mean,
And you said a few people.
there's
a
real
few
ramifications
people.
to what we're talking
Name
about here.
one.
But I
Name
will
one.
say, as an observation, I think we all, including us, are part of the problem because we all live in our own little echo chambers now, and we tend to gravitate towards things that reinforce our existing beliefs, and it tends to radicalize us in not in the religious sense, but it exacerbates the opinions we already have. And the illustration that I heard recently on a podcast was someone was talking about the YouTube algorithm and how it changed, right? So how it used to be what they call the Gangnam style algorithm. So they would always push you because their job is to keep you on the platform and monetize you, right?
And they're very effective at it.
really good at it. But what they used to do is they'd send you, when you finished a video, they'd send you to a slightly more popular video related to what you watched. And
Right.
eventually you'd get to the most popular video on the platform, which was Gangnam Style. That's how the algorithm used to work. But they realized there was a finite end to that. So they changed the algorithm, and now instead of going more popular, they go more extreme in a direction of what you are, like down a rabbit hole. So you
Right.
keep going.
Yep.
So if you start being interested in, hey, I heard this thing about flat Earth, what is that about? And you watch one video explaining what it is, then you're going to get a slightly more down the rabbit hole version of flat Earth until 50 videos later, you're now in the conspiracy. You're part of it, right? And that's what social media is doing. It's what Facebook's doing. It's what YouTube's doing. It's what all our media consumption is doing. It's what the mainstream news media organizations are doing because they want to keep us in. And it's just creating this lack of
pressure cooker. Yeah.
It's creating this conflation between opinion and fact. It's creating this animosity between you name the label, whatever the label is, between different groups of people. There's animosity, and you can just look at it on the media side, right? So you guys know I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and you saw this uprising that happened from a very small group of people with the last Star Wars movie, the Last Jedi. It was a minority of people on social media that now have a voice, but the media turn it into something way more than it was. And now it kind of grew and grew to the point now where Ryan Johnson's out promoting his new movie, and people are sending him death threats because of what he did to a movie, like entertainment. It's insane.
So I seeded all of this to bring it all back to it's Twitter. That's the problem, which actually Twitter's only problem is the Rock Cheetah account.
Actually, to go with that,
I beg to differ. The Rock Cheetah account has no personalization, is not doing anything to keep people on the platform.
Okay.
It's repelling people.
I'm going to go the way of Stuart on this one. It's okay. I always have the belief it's okay to disagree, and I still can like you. We're dealing with now. We're all turning into Sith
You can't.
and absolutes.
You cannot
Either
disagree
you're with
with
us
someone
or you're
online
against
anymore without anger being thrown into it.
Yeah,
Like, if
whether
someone
you're
has
with or against,
opinion,
there's
they're
nothing
your
in the middle.
enemy today. That's how we're trained, and it's stupid. What happened to debate? What happened to
Trolling.
me listening to your side of an argument, me giving you mine, and us finding common ground and then disagreeing on what we disagree
And
on?
see, now you brought to the core of why our show is such a success, because we disagree all the time. And yet we're still
Oh,
Why our
shut
show
up, Warren. That's
why our show
completely
works
wrong.
is we actually all agree and just put up faux disagreements
Right. Yeah.
because we're bored.
What we didn't
Okay,
tell you is
maybe
we had to pick a side before the show, and we have to
That's
argue.
right.
that.
We drew
That's why-
straws.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of which, we are over 2 hours.
I think
as
that's the
always-
deepest conversation we've ever had.
It is.
Oh no, we've had some other, we've gone down the well.
You can help solve this problem, because it's short of shutting off social media. Just be a little civil to your neighbor that disagrees with you. How about spend time with that person that you don't like, because you can get to know them, and then you might find that the fear you have because you don't understand them is misplaced, and they're actually a genuinely nice person. Go have dinner with that neighbor that you don't like. Do it.
Actually,
These ideas
you
are
say
not
that.
American. I don't know this whole Grenadian. You're growing up in Grenada or whatever is really just not
Ah, man.
skewing what should be
Tell me we're just
happening.
wrong. Love
Stuart,
each
I've
other.
literally taken your advice. I don't want to waste the times on the show, but I've literally taken your advice. I've sat down with my neighbors that has a different opinion about stuff, but he's still my neighbor, and he's going through some medical things. And I said, I would, tell me how I can help you, so forth, so on. But adamantly, he is on a different polarity when it comes to certain beliefs and stuff. But that doesn't mean he's not my
It doesn't
neighbor.
make you a bad person. It doesn't.
Who cares? Like, you shouldn't care unless it's affecting you directly that they don't agree with some random bullshit that you agree with. Because let's face it, most of the stuff we believe in ourselves and like have concocted ourselves doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
So don't get so angry about it.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
No.
Just chill out.
Well, no.
Relax.
Lauren's neighbor has a breathing apparatus which requires electricity. This show starts because Lauren is streaming across 18 platforms. His lights dim and the breathing thing doesn't work. Right, so
It has nothing to do
He's
with the
got a
extra extension
legitimate
that I plug into
beef.
his power to drain his power, right? No, nothing like that. All right. With that being said, Mr. Edward St. Ange, if people want to know more about you and Flip2, where is it that they go, sir?
You can learn all about Flip2 on the Fuel podcast, which can be found by typing in the Fuel Marketing Podcast. Or you can just go to flip.to is another way. If you want to find me on social media, it's LinkedIn. It's Edward St. Ange.
And what about your football passion? What's that
I
handle
am
now?
not releasing that Twitter handle, so I can this year take it to another level.
it is
Damn it.
worse. We finally found a Twitter account that's worse than rockcheetah.com.
Talking about opinions that are wrong, follow that Twitter handle.
Oh, my Twitter. Mr. Robert Cole, if they want to know about you and Rock Cheetah, where is it they can go?
Certainly
sir?
at rockcheetah.com or at Robert K. Cole. Now, actually, as a public service, Ed can be found at anarchy.com. Stuart can be found at peaceloveandgranola.com.
Promise I'm not.
And Lauren has this new app that just dynamically generates random characters for his URL, so it's just everywhere.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere. I'm
Just lay on
Constantly,
your keyboard,
constantly changing.
and once you hit the maximum character limit, you will find Lauren's website.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, Lauren has a quantum. Yeah, it's a whole quantum thing. He's
Yes, I'm in
multiple places
a hyperstasis. I'm between a positive, negative, and hyperstasis.
Yes.
Mr. Stuart Butler for Fuel Travel, sir, where is it they can find you?
You can find us at fueltravel.com. The podcast is fueltravel.com/podcasts. And again, we're going to do an episode on millennials and Generation Z or Z. as I was
Please
saying.
tell me it's going to be very hateful.
It's going to be. Here's an article that talks about all the things you should know about Generation Z and all the things you should
And how
avoid.
it's wrong.
And then we're going to bring it to reality a little bit. So,
Okay, which is
Hey.
people are people, and our general motivations.
Younger
have
people are different
not
than older
changed.
people, and people from this place are different, and that's okay. Let's all get along. That's good.
And the
That's all
older
they're-
generation always dislikes the younger generation. It's
Oh, we-
never been.
This is exactly right. Yeah,
like it.
my opinion is that millennials, any younger generation, we hate them because we're jealous of them because they have
Because you ain't them.
they have life a little bit easier than we have it, and we're
Yeah.
not young anymore, and we've
And
grown.
they have more in front of us
Not-
than we do. And they have more in
Not
front
not for the millennials or Gen Z coming up though. It's
Absolutely,
going to be a lot worse.
hell no. You cannot tell me there's not an argument you can make that a millennial has it harder today than we had. And don't start touting salaries and stuff like that, because every one of them has a supercomputer in their pocket. Every one of them has
Oh,
more
yeah.
food than they can eat. It's just nonsense. The things we create to say they have it harder than us, total BS. Total BS.
Yes, they will never know the pain of having to shut the door on an Encyclopedia Britannica sales rep.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or having to find a pencil because your cassette just unwound and you've got to wind it back up. They
Or
never
that
have
you
about that.
Having to
Somebody
stay
else
within
house
10
and you answer
feet
the phone.
of a base in order to have a phone call.
Yeah. Or being attached to the wall when you're having a phone call. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Or having to wait 45 minutes for a single image to
Okay.
load.
yeah.
Let me have
Your
a
photos
counterpoint.
developed at the CVS.
Okay. Way back, way before your time, I could in 5th grade, I could go hop on my bike and ride out, 10 blocks, big
You
blocks
can still do that.
away and hang out with kids. And my parents, I could kind of tell them generally where I was going, but they didn't really know. They couldn't track
Listen,
me.
I will say,
there was no cell phone to call me or reach me.
Robert makes a good point, because the 6 people Robert has murdered in his life and no one knows about would not happen in modern day.
Zodiac
Hey.
Killer again?
Actually,
How old were
I
you?
grew up in I grew up in Seattle, and my sister was in college at the University of Washington when Ted Bundy was doing his thing. But
Okay.
that was not a
All right,
great
so
thing.
I have
You
the
got
mic drop to
louder.
this whole conversation. I have the mic drop to this whole conversation. I grew up going to bars and having fun and owning them, and there ain't a piece of record about it showing anywhere.
And that's why he has a professional career today.
That's right.
The
Don't
only
tell me
reason.
Nobody knows the stupid
That's-
stuff I
that's-
did growing up.
That Social Security
Except for
number
those who
he
lived
grabbed
with him.
off of the. Yep, the guy he killed and took his identity. Oh, that's it. And look at this young Lauren Gray, right? She's trying to steal his identity. It's not working because of social media. She can't get it, right? So, yeah, disadvantage.
For this episode and all previous 210 for the
Most of which
4 year
aren't nearly as weird as this one.
doing
This
this
one went sideways. Pretty good.
is at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. And for those of you in the EU who waited until this time to finish watching the show today,
We apologize. We apologize.
we will be
We hope
broadcasting
you were drunk.
Tuesday, and for
I
those
hope
in
they're
APAC,
drunk. That's
you
the
will
only
be
way
at
this-
11 o'clock on Monday.
If you give us Greenland, we will stop broadcasting the show.
We'll give you
to
Puerto Rico.
How's that?
Because I'm the chosen one. Jesus.
Be a good trade.
All right. With that in mind, thank you, everyone, and we will catch you next week. Oh, hey, next week we have guest Stuart. It's your dude that you turn. I don't remember his name right now.
Wow.
Vikram?
Yeah.
Remember his dude.
Yeah, that
No?
dude that you. Yeah, it's then that's stuff. Anyway, yeah, I'll send it out. It'll be in the email for.
How about you learn his name between now and next week?
Hmm?
How about you learn his name between now and next week?
I will try to pronounce. I think it's easy, like Bob or Ed or something. I'm not sure, but I'll work on it for sure.
I've
I
got
told
another
you.
guy I'm going to send you away to, Lauren.
Bad with names.
I got a
All
guy
right,
that works
Bob.
with ADA stuff, so I'll send you that
Thanks
guy.
so much for joining today. Till next week, show 211, 11:30 Eastern. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Sorry.